Wasn't loud enough. That wasn't loud enough either. I'm forcing it. Fuck it. I don't know what's going on. Hi everybody. What's goody Rod? What's goody Box Watch? What's goody Avo? Smokey, what it do? Fistiana, what it do? Alcoholic, what it do? Jump Tube, what it do? And yeah, man, it's the first live of 2023. Couple of things on my mind. Some subjects that I feel are relevant to the turn of the year, and what I hope to see this year that we didn't see last year. And I already know what's coming to mind for you guys, but it's not what you think. I believe that this is the year that Jaron Boots Ennis needs to justify the air that he has around him, because he didn't do much of anything last year. He fought Custio Clayton for 4 minutes, and that was really it. And while the victory was impressive, there should have been more to show for the entire calendar year than just that. You know, this is a fighter that people are picking to beat Errol Spence. This is a fighter that people are picking to beat Terrence Crawford, picking to beat Virgil Ortiz. And the hyperbole is almost out of control for me. So at minimum, at the end of this year, I need that buzz to be, I guess, validated. You know, like what's going on with this guy? At the end of this year, we shouldn't still be waiting for a signature victory. However, Cameron Duncan and Showtime make it happen. They need to make it happen. At the end of this year, you know, he needs a fight, a relevant fight. And what's goody Nate Alien? What's goody Carlos? What's goody Danny Garcia? You know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel about that. That the stuff that gets said about that guy, it's all based on eye test all the time with the eye test. And it's like, I said it in a video that I did, that the eye test is probably one of the most abused concepts in the sport of boxing, because people are substituting actual substance with eye tests. And an eye test, you know, you don't get paid for an eye test. You don't get a fight purse. You don't win a belt. You don't get inducted to the Boxing Hall of Fame for an eye test. And what I see in a lot of circles is that people use the eye test thing as if that's as good as a victory. Well, no, it's not. It's not as good as a victory, all right? Upsets happen all the time. We see it all the time in this sport, where everything looks a certain way on paper, or everything looks a certain way before a fight, and then in the fight, surprises happen. And the eye test is not good enough for me. He can look great against the Dulormes and the Custio Claytons of the world. Though ultimately, if you really, you know, if he's supposed to be all that in a bag of chips, then something needs to happen this year, because I am tired of hearing about it. I look at another young guy who's coming through the ranks named Virgil Ortiz, who has less fights than Jaron Boots Ennis, but he has more impressive victories. He has a more complete body of work. A former champion in Maurice Hooker, a seasoned contender in Alex Salcedo, Javier Orozco, Brad Solomon, El Maestro, seasoned gatekeeper / journeyman. He took on an unbeaten guy in his last fight, Michael McKinson, a pure boxer, a southpaw. He stopped him in impressive fashion, and he's about to fight a solid guy, a solid top 10 contender, an unbeaten one, in his prime, coming off a career best win in Radzav Butaev. He's about to fight Eimantas Stanionis. And I want to see that from Boots, because, like I said, I'm tired of hearing about it. I really am. Like, I'm sick of hearing about how great the guy is without being able to amount. Well, okay, what the fuck has he done? And winning a vacant title, you know, that's not going to do it. Like, seriously, it's not going to do it. If Spence leaves 147 and the title goes vacant, that's not a substitute for a signature victory. A lot of guys end up with vacant titles. It's not a substitute for a signature victory. I was goody True Media, what it do? Al Money, what it do? And that's not asking a lot, because I'm a boxing fan. I'm here for boxing matches, and I want to see him validate the hype that he has around him. However, Stephan Espinoza and Cameron Duncan have to work it out. Because I see people saying, oh, he beats this and he beats that and he beats this and he beats that. That's your imagination, bro. That's not reality. You know what I mean? That's shit in your head, which is what we often see with Gervonta Davis, the king of imaginary fights, the king of postulated fights. They're like, bruh, Because you think he beats a guy doesn't mean he actually beats a guy. You got to fight the fights. I mean, as a consumer, if nothing else, that's what we're here for, to see the fights get fought. Not to imagine that the fights get fought and then give the guy credit for something that didn't happen in real time, in real life. You know what I mean? I thought that Devin was a better boxer than George Kambosos, but it's not enough for me to think that. He went out there and proved it. I thought, yeah, you know what? Devin beats this guy, man. Like, yeah, George beat Teofimo, but Devin beats this guy. And I could think that, and that's cool. But there were literally people in my comment section. I didn't forget that there were people in my comment section that picked George to win the fight. They picked George. And they weren't the only ones. I saw people on Twitter that picked George to win the fight. I saw people here on YouTube that picked George to win the fight. I saw Jeff Mayweather. Jeff Mayweather said that Devin can't win a decision on camera, all right? That's what saying things before a fight is worth. Absolutely nothing. The fight itself is everything. Having the fight and winning the fight. Not the annotations, not the forecasts, not the predictions, having the fights. You know what I mean? So when it comes to Jaron Ennis, he needs to justify the buzz this year. I don't want to keep hearing about how great he is without nothing to show for it. He needs to justify the buzz. I don't care who they have to find for him to fight. If you got to bring Danny back down to 147, so be it, you know. But the buzz is 12 months in the calendar year. And this year just started, you know. It just started. He's fighting a guy, Karen Chukatsian, right? And that's already like, bro, for the buzz he got, we need to be seeing something better than this. So I do feel that this year, yeah, man, something need to happen. If it ain't next, it need to be after next. He needs to fight more often. That's the other thing. That you fought once last year, bro. What a waste of a year. You fought once. Why? You could have fought a Karen Chukatsian last year. If that's what you was going to do this year, you could have fought a guy like that last year. You know, so I don't want to keep hearing excuses, and I don't want to keep hearing about how great he is without having something to show for it. Shout out to Danny Lopez. You know what I mean? Shout out to Ruben Gutierrez. Will is in the building. LeBron is in the building. Coach is in the building. Dougie in the building. You know what I mean? It's all this fake made up shit that people are using eye tests. Oh, because you high on them. You think that fights that happen in your imagination is as good as a real fight. That gotta be what it is. Cause I'm like, bro, I don't care what you think about your eye test. I'm not here for your eye test. You know what I'm here for? To see the fights. And until I see him with someone solid, I'm just tired of hearing about it. You know, I am like, yeah, you on the same side of the street as a lot of guys to not be getting no fights. You know? Like you really are. You on Showtime. You on the same platform as a lot of other guys. So you should, in theory at least, have more to show for it than in your resume. And you know what? If you don't get those signature fights this year that you didn't get last year or the year before that, guess what? You ain't all that in a bag of chips. I'm sorry. You don't get points for made up fights. You don't get purses for postulations. You don't. That's not how boxing works. It's the hurt business, not the eye test business. Right? Tired of hearing about that shit. We don't need to see him fight. We know he wins. Stop hating. Yeah, that's the logic. That's the rationale that I see some people have. That because they imagine things in their mind, that's as good as a victory. You know, they do it with Gervonta Davis all the time. You know? Gervonta Davis's lightweight resume is Gamboa, Isaac Cruz, Rolly Romero. Those are not the top lightweights. They're not. But they want to give it to him off top just because of the eye test. We know who the top lightweights are. We know who they are. And if you're not fighting them, what does that tell us? And if the people that you're fighting aren't fighting them, then what does that tell us? Rolly was a top lightweight based on what? Who was that based on? Who he beat? Isaac Cruz? Who he beat? Stands to reason. It's not the eye test business. It's not the eye test business. It's not the imagination business. It's the hurt business. So if you want to prove that you're one of the best, or you believe that one of these guys is one of the best, they need to go out there and prove it. Nobody here to hear about your eye test. So that's one thing about this year that I feel needs to happen. The buzz around Jaron Ennis, it needs to be justified. Something needs to happen. This year should not come and go without him racking up a signature victory. Something needs to happen. If this year comes and goes, and for some reason, any reason at all, Ryan and Gervonta don't fight, that's going to reflect poorly on the both of them. And I'm not forecasting it. I'm not telling you that they're not going to fight. I'm telling you if they don't fight, it reflects poorly on the both of them because you're both lightweights. You're both lightweights. You campaign at 135. Ryan, he wants to do this thing, and I talked about it in my previous video, that in his mind, beating Gervonta Davis is supposed to be better, bigger, and better than beating anyone else. When Gervonta didn't beat anybody solid at 135 or 140, but in his mind, that's a more solid victory than anything else. And all I have to say about that is, irrespective of perception, if you don't fight him, what then? Because you haven't fought anybody so far. They say Virgil is stagnant. What the hell is Boots? Exactly. There's nothing stagnant about Virgil Ortiz. That kid has a great resume, and he's only 19-0. 19-0, that's it. 19-0 with 19 KOs. That's it. He doesn't have 20-something fights like Boots. And he's about to fight a better guy than any guy you can find on Boots' resume. A proven guy who's a legitimate, bona fide top 10 contender in a Montestanionis. So, I mean, really, it's not complicated. You're not going to keep selling me this dream about this fighter, Boots, and if at the end of this year he doesn't have nothing to show for it, I'm just going to come right out and say, okay, he's a hype job. That's what I'm going to say. If this year comes and goes the same way that last year came and went, and you still haven't fought shit, okay, you're a hype job, bro. Because at this point, it's all hype. You got 20-something fights. You're on the same platform as a lot of other fighters. And if Cameron and Stefan and the people around you, if they don't get you a meaningful fight in the next 12 months, you're a hype job. I don't care how you look like opposite these no-hopers. You're a hype job. Simple, Sick of that shit. It seems to be a phenomenon that's exclusive to the American boxing scene, to crown fighters the best in show that haven't proven anything. That seems to be a uniquely American phenomenon because I don't see that in the UK boxing scene. I don't see that. I don't see that in the Canadian boxing scene. That, yeah, man, this guy's great. He beats everything. He beats everyone. Based on what? Thomas Dulorme? If you don't think that Crawford beat anyone, right? You know that Crawford beat Dulorme years ago? Literally, like almost 10 years ago, maybe close to 10 years ago. And you trash his resume, but you turn around and you think Boots is God's gift to the welterweight division because he's fighting an older Thomas Dulorme. Give a break, man. That guy's a 140-pounder. Boots wants Virgil to do the work and demand a 50% split. The reality is that because he's exclusive to Showtime, he may very well end up fighting for the red belt. He may very well end up an IBF champion. But as far as fights, I don't think he's going to get Errol. If Errol beats Keith, I don't think he's going to get Keith, I mean, he's kind of fucked already, but irrespective of forecasts, this year should not come and go without him fighting someone. I'm sorry. No, it's ridiculous. Virgil's resume is better than his. If Golden Boy can work it out, and they don't have the inside track on the welterweight, like they don't, but if Golden Boy can work it out to where this kid has a nice-looking resume for a 19-0 up-and-comer, surely Cameron Duncan and Stefan Espinoza should be able to work it out for Ennis because he's actually on the same side of the street as these guys. And I want to see the buzz. I want to see the hype get justified this year. I don't want to keep hearing about how great he is, and all I see is Chukatsians and Dulormes. Sorry, got to do better than that. This is not. This doesn't even feel like a step up from Castillo Clayton. This feels like a step back or a step down from Castillo Clayton, an unbeaten up and comer, an Olympian. So he has a background at minimum. And this Chukatsian guy. He doesn't really seem like a step up or a step forward. It's a step back or a step down. And I don't want to keep hearing about it. Only option for Boots this year is if Al gets Danny to come back down to 147 for an all-Philly clash. I do agree with that, Quentin. I do agree with that. I think that's a good fight for him because at minimum, it would afford him the chance to, knock out a guy that's never been knocked out. He's been in there with Errol. He's been in there with Thurman. He's been in there with Porter, but he's never been knocked out. So if Boots can get him in the ring and knock him out, that at least makes that statement. And Danny did have a win. He's coming off a win. He went up there to 54. He fought Benavidez. So, he's not, coming off an L. So, something needs to happen. In 2026, will Virgil versus Boots happen at 154? I don't believe it will, to be completely honest with you. I don't believe it will. Nothing about Boots' situation communicates to me that, some dope shit is going to happen, to be real with you. Nothing really. But it's not about forecasts and predictions. It's about results. You're on a major platform. You're on the same platform as a lot of other fighters, and you need to make something happen. Your team does. Because all this hype shit is ridiculous. The same people that think Lomachenko is a hype job think that this guy is the best thing since sliced bread for beating no one. Get the fuck out of my face. Jump Tube saying Virgil don't want it in the comments. Don't want it with who, bro? With Big Bad Boots that ain't fought shit? That's the shit I'm talking about. The fuck Boots did, man. I ain't even telling you that Virgil want it or he don't want it. I already know that even if he did, that shit ain't gonna happen. Why? Politics. Ain't no excuse for your boy. Ain't no excuse for Boots to not have fought something. You know what I mean? You on the same side of the street. That whole, he's on ESPN and he's on DAZN. That don't apply to him because, you on Showtime with Keefe, with Danny, with Errol, with Josecito Lopez. You on the same side of the street as a lot of people, bro. So when we gonna see you get in there and get a fight? All the sides of the street bullshit we hear about, you on the same side of the street as them. You can't, you know what I mean? So something got to give. Something got to happen. You know what I mean? Some real shit, bro. Virgil go in there and he fights Stanionis, which is a big part of the reason that I'm, this became a conversation in my head, is because Virgil is about to go in there with an unbeaten up-and-comer, a bona fide top 10 fighter in the welterweight division. He's about to fight him. And if he knocks him out, there's no argument that anybody can make that Boots is anywhere near Virgil, Like, seriously, there isn't. You just high on him beating up people that you would not bet on to win the fight. Understand Ennis happy fighting bums for 4 minutes. I mean, you re-signed with them, right? You over there, you know what I mean? I waited. I was patient with Boots. I was patient because I kept hearing about him. And I'm like, all right. And last year came and went, and he didn't do anything. All he did was fight Castillo Clayton. Even if you can't get him Thurman, can you get him Josecito Lopez? Can you get him Josecito? I mean, something got to give. His people must not believe in him like they say they do. That's what I see. Like if I have to evaluate what they're really doing, they know they're not going to get Spence, and they're not really after Crawford. They know they're not going to get Spence, and they're not really after Crawford. What they are doing is waiting for a vacant title. I'm going to shoot the link to Quentin. I'm going to shoot the link to Quentin. The link is for Quentin. Quentin, and I want to get his thoughts on a couple of things because it gets too messy when I have like 10 people on the panel. You know what I mean? No patience for fighters with, yo, talk about it, Drew. That's what I mean. And like at 25-0 or 26-0, you know, and they're saying that he beats Crawford. They're saying that he beats Spence. They're saying that he beats Virgil, Connor. He beats everything. And then when you look, it's like, well, what the hell has he been doing for 25 fights? For 26 fights? What has he been doing? Yeah. We got Quentin in the chat. Was goody Quentin? Talk to me about this Boots and the situation because myself, I'm growing impatient. That's where I'm at. I'm growing a little bit impatient because I feel like it's almost disrespectful to carry on about Boots the way that so many people are, and there's so little to show for it. Like Virgil has a better resume to me than Boots, right? But I would never tell you that Virgil beats Crawford. Nah. You bargain like, huh? Based on what? So talk to me about how you feel about the Boots kid and just your forecast for the 2023 situation.
I mean, he's not really in a position right now where it seems like he's getting a lot of favor from his own promoter. And I think that's really problematic because you said it earlier, he's on the right side of the street to get the fights that he needs. It just seems like for whatever reason, whether it's because Al doesn't want to give him those fights or because he hasn't signed a deal with Al, maybe that's what it's going to take. But it doesn't seem like he's getting the fights he should be having to try to build him towards a title. Because, I mean, realistically, they should have been pushing to get him to get his fight with Errol like now, before Thurman, before any of this other stuff, because Errol hasn't fulfilled an IBF mandatory in like almost 5 years now.
I agree. And I think that honestly, that sentiment that they should have been pushing for the Spence fight, irrespective of a Crawford situation. Like, look, if Errol was dealing with Crawford or he wasn't dealing with Crawford, that's not Boots' problem. My problem is my title shot, bro. I don't give a fuck what you got going on with Bud, and you ain't even fight Bud. So what the fuck? It ain't like you fought him. You know what I mean? Like, no, you didn't fight Bud, right? All right. So what? So then what the fuck? You see what I mean?
Yeah, bro, it's really one of those situations. It kind of reminds me a little bit of how people have treated Tank, right? It's like they're projecting his skill set and how he would match up with hypothetical matchups against other guys, but the fights are not being made. What needs to be done to get the fight signed, to get the fights crossed over the line, is not being done for him. And we're all we have to go off of is just projection. And projection is great when you're a prospect, but once you become a
Exactly.
title contender, it's not about projection anymore. It's about what you do in the ring. And unfortunately, either he's not willing to speak up enough, his dad is not willing to speak up enough, or they're not allowed to speak up because it's very obvious that they have not been pushing for the fights that they are very easily in line for. I don't see why an IBF mandatory was not called in the last 6 months when he's basically been number one or he's been number two with a vacant number one slot for damn near like 8 months now.
And shout out to Russ Pettit because I think that's a sensational fight. Boots versus Butaev is I love that fight. I love the idea of that fight, and that fight would satisfy what I'm asking for, which is really not a lot. You know, like it's not like I'm asking him to go in there and fight Crawford and Errol, and nah. I'm just saying that you ain't fight nobody solid for all this shit that I be hearing about. You ain't fight nobody solid. Now the kid Virgil, he about to fight Stanionis. Stanionis is a solid guy. How we know? He beat Butaev. Butaev beat Jamal James. You see what I mean? That we could at least say that. With Boots, we can't say nothing, bro. You beat Thomas Dulorme and Custio Clayton.
I got
Custio,
one for you, bro. I got one for you. What about him against Mean Machine?
that's an
That's a great
excellent
fight.
fight. It's a good
That's a great
fight.
fight. It's a fight that allows him, even if we want to say, well, that's Virgil's leftovers, yada yada. Virgil's leftovers is turning out to be damn good fights.
No, and the other thing is this too, that because those are not expensive opponents, like you ain't got to break the bank to pay Egas. You ain't got to break the bank to pay Butaev, right? No, those are two fights that I think make a lot of sense for this year. Like, bro, those is not the guys that you got to give them $2-3 million to get them in the ring. You give them a couple $100,000, they get with it, or something like that. And Egas is not that young anyway, so the clock is ticking. If you want to get in position to fight for a title, that's your chance. The IBF interim champion, right? That's what Boots is going to be if he beats Karen Chukatsian. So it's like at some point you have to validate the hype because this guy is coming close. He's coming up on 30 fights. And 30 fights of what?
Yeah, man, definitely. I think by the time you get to about 22 to 24 fights, if you're not already at world level and contending with guys that are ranked above you or ranked at least a few spots behind you when you talk about the top 15, the top 20, then you really are just wasting your time. And people want to use the excuse, well, these sanctioning body rankings, like I really don't put too much stock in the sanctioning body rankings unless you're talking about fighting for the full-fledged title. If you're not fighting
Exactly.
for the full-fledged title, in my mind, you need to be fighting guys that are in the divisional rank standings. When you talk about Ring Magazine, when you talk about BoxRec,
Exactly.
when you talk about those rankings, where it's going to rank everybody based on skill set, not just based on who's paying a sanctioning body fees. That's just me.
Exactly. Drew says Boots beats Tito and Sweet Pea. Hypothetically, that's what I'm hearing. Jump Tube thinks Virgil let Thurman cut the WBC line. No, and that's what I'm talking about. That like we act like we don't. There's people out there, I should say, that act like they don't see the chicanery when it's like at its base. That's literally what it is. It's chicanery. This is a fighter who had not fought in 2 years. He goes in there with a super lightweight that did absolutely nothing at welterweight, coming off a knockout loss, and that is enough to get him a shot by way of the WBC. And what, I gotta hold the guy's hand and tell him what exactly is wrong with that when there are young guys, unbeaten guys? Hey, Montestanionis was mandatory already last year. Thurman didn't come back till this year. So how the fuck does Thurman get the cut ahead of him in the line? And when you read through the articles, what you see is that Tom Brown asked the WBC to do that. Asked them to
Right,
do that,
right.
to skip him. Like, no, we want to do the Thurman thing, so can you order Thurman? And obviously there has to be cooperation from the WBA. There has to be, because they're not telling Errol, no, you better fight A Montes or we gonna strip you. No, they ordered fucking Ortiz and A Montestanionis. They screwed
Yeah,
him.
yeah, man. I think the one thing that definitely could be changed, if there was anything I think should be changed for 2023, it probably won't happen. But when you talk about these dual mandatories, I think they need to start using that a lot more often when you have a unified champion like you do with Errol Spence, where maybe he doesn't necessarily have to deal with 3 or 4 mandatories if he has 3 or 4 belts, but you get the top guys who are ranked at the top of each sanctioning body. You get them to fight each other, and then they have to get their fight shot. I mean, it doesn't really seem that difficult to me to get Thurman, who's on the same side of the street with Boots, get them to have the fight, and that's a dual mandatory. That's an easy solution. That also
Mm-hmm.
allows time for Crawford and Spence to figure out what they're going to do for the next 6 months to get that fight on. And if that fight happens, well, then Thurman and Ennis could be an undercard fight, a co-main event, and then that person is next in line to get a shot at the title. I mean, I don't see it being that difficult. They're on the same side of the street.
It shouldn't be. In theory, it shouldn't be. But, Drew says, thoughts on Hearn 3-fight plan? I think it's a good plan. I'm actually going to save that for an episode of the Relay tomorrow. But just passing thoughts, I do think it's a good plan. And what I want to see from Hearn that I probably won't see, and what I want to see from AJ that I probably won't see, is they allow the consensus of the public. It almost seems like they allow themselves in the way they move to be affected by what people are saying, while Wilder can come back, he fights as Hellenius and yada, 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 and he doesn't bend or budge to anything that Hearn is saying. So stop placing so much emphasis on AJ fighting Wilder or fighting Fury when, look, those fights will happen on your time, but stop, I guess, being a slave to the moment. They're like, oh, yeah, yeah, we got to fight. Man, we'll fight that motherfucker when we get to him, because when we wanted to fight him, he told us to wait. So I mean, it is what it is, motherfucker. Because you ain't got nobody to fight over there worth no money. Those are you problems. Those are not our problems. Those are you problems. We offered you $100 million, my guy. We ain't tell you to go over there playing around with that gypsy. We ain't tell you to do that. You wanted to do that. So all right.
Yeah, personally, I mean, I thought that the AJ World Tour idea was a really good idea. I mean, I think realistically, not that it matters to Bob too much, but they could have done, they could have done an FA Ajagba fight in Africa. They could have done the Zile Zhang fight in China. They could have done, another fight, like you mentioned it before on numerous occasions, the Otto Wallin fight. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you got a lot of options for AJ, and I remember putting a list out a couple of weeks after his loss, and literally it was like a list of like 8 different dudes that he could fight, and all of those fights are high level fights, entertaining fights, and fights that make him and the other guy a lot of money. So I don't think AJ is hurting for options. I think that what it is that he has so many options that it's hard for them to make a decision. And I think they just need to go ahead and make a decision, make a plan, make the offer they want to make, get it in writing and get it done, man. I feel like they've been talking about what he's going to do next for like over 6 weeks now. And it's
Yeah.
problematic because he should be in camp right now preparing for a specific opponent. And we're talking about now it's January 2nd. They still haven't announced the card. They still haven't announced the date yet. And I think he needs that. I think he needs to be focused on one guy right now, not 3 potential guys.
Yeah, because they said they want to bring him back in April. So, he's got all of February and all of March. But I'm with you that I'm tired of hearing about things that he might do, things that he's going to do. I want to hear some fight news, or I don't want to hear anything. That's kind of where I'm at with it, that I want to hear some fight news. I want to hear something concrete, something official, because the last 3 years, AJ's career has been stifled by fighting once a year for the last 3 years. That's the schedule that he's on. And it's different with him because you know that there's money. You know that there's money there. Of course, there's money, but they spend so much time on the individual fights when, look, bro, if you want to get sharp again, you need to fight more than once a year again. And that should be the focus, irrespective of who, because regardless of who you fight, it's going to make money. You could fight Valine, you could fight Zhang, you could fight Hergovic, you could fight a lot of fucking guys, and you're going to make money. The focus is getting active again because that's what's going to make you better. You've been fighting once a year since 2020. That's the problem. That's a problem that I see that shouldn't even be happening with him because he's worth so much money. But it is happening. And it's like, it needs to stop. Like, bro, don't matter if it's Valine, don't matter if it's just whoever, bro. Get him out there. Get him out there 3 times this year, barring illness or injury. Get him out there.
Yeah, man, I think the one thing that logistically has made him a little bit more difficult to schedule for, at least in Eddie's part, is probably the fact that they can literally every fight get, 85, 90,000 people into a stadium. But because the UK has so much bad weather, bro, from what I've been told, they can literally only do one fight outside a year. And it's really a summer fight because you look at like the Fury fight, that fight probably had 20,000 people less than it could have because it was freezing cold outside. They did that fight outdoors in December, and they only got about 60, 65,000 people out there. So I think with AJ, they're trying to maximize however many fights he can have in those stadiums. But it's tough because from what I know, they only have one indoor stadium. And I think that's the one that's in Wales. I think that's the only one they have that's indoor. So
But that's where the world tour idea, which
exactly,
I think is a great idea. You can
exactly.
have. I firmly believe if you do AJ versus Valine in New York City, Madison Square Garden, you can sell out 20,000. You can. I believe they can with that fight because of the Fury angle. You can go the UK route and be reliant on the UK audience, that they're good fans. They come out and they support. But this is a fighter who, when he fights, people do show up. So at least one of those fights could be in America. Presumably, I would go with the Valine fight as a fight that could take place on U.S. soil in Madison Square Garden because Valine has shared the ring with Tyson Fury, and that will be the marketing angle. For all the times that Fury brings up Joshua or he's asked about Joshua and Frank Warren, same deal with him, it's about time you started using him as an angle. Like, yeah, this guy, he went in there, and if I'm Eddie Hearn, I ham it up. I'm on level 100. Like, bro, this dude beat the shit out of Fury. I want to put him in there with AJ so AJ could teach Fury how you handle that because he was wasting our time before. A lot of people bit the bait thinking he really wanted to fight us, and he didn't. Nobody expects a fight between two guys like Fury and AJ to get made with all these deadlines and all this bullshit. You want me to sign by Monday, then sign by Wednesday? If I'm Eddie, I've become that mouthpiece that talks that shit because it needs to be said. They're like, bro, look, when you fought that Valine, you went life or death with him. My guy's going to go in there and smoke him, and you get to watch so we can show you how it's done because you talk too much. And that's if Fury even makes it past Usyk. Who knows if he does?
I mean, I really like the idea of Eddie kind of finagling the deal that he has going on with all these Australian fighters. Do a Dempsey McKean fight in Marvel Stadium with AJ. You get Ebony Bridges on the undercard. You can get Scott Nicholson on the undercard. You can do a huge fight, a much bigger fight than the one he started with. You can do that in Australia. That sells out instantly, bro.
That's a beautiful idea. You do AJ versus McKean, right? You do AJ versus McKean as the main event. You could have, depending on when Ebony comes back, because the thing about Ebony is she just had a surgery, so in all likelihood she's going to need a tune-up fight. So maybe you put her not as the co-main, but just before the co-main, and the co-main can be, which I think is a beautiful fight, Liam Pato versus Stevie Sparks, 140 pounds. It's a great fight. Great fight between a slugger, a big action guy, and a good boxer. Liam Pato is a good boxer. And then before that, you do Bridges versus a tune-up kind of opponent because she's going to need a tune-up fight. She just had surgery. And yeah, you have Sky Nicholson on the undercard, on the prelim card. She does her thing. All Australian shootouts in Australia. You can sell that at Marvel Stadium, And they got a good audience out there that's growing. So that's another angle that I personally agree that the World Tour idea is a great idea depending on how you play it. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm not keen on AJ versus White again, to be completely honest. Like, no, I'm not. I'd rather see White versus Zhang or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, bro, not that I think it goes any differently, but Eddie could just be honest with Montana and say, bro, you got your hometown fight. You took the L. You didn't want to fight. You wanted to get out of there. So you got to go and get that back. You got to go back and get it in Australia. Do the rematch in Australia.
Drew says there's a video of Dana White slapping his wife. Oh dear. Well, they're gonna be all over his fucking ass.
Man. Yeah, well, they got to now. What happened last week.
Basically, like, you got to keep the same energy, bro. Dana White out here smacking broads. Put his ass in jail. Put him in. If there's a video of the shit, we ain't got nothing to talk about. Put his ass in jail. Unless he slapped on the ass.
I'm still trying to figure out how Tank didn't go to jail for what he did.
Well, I read a statistic.
That's crazy, bro.
I read a statistic, and not most people know this, though, that oftentimes in domestic disputes, the abused, the one who claims to be abused, 80% of the time they recant. So the act of Vanessa Poso recanting does not necessarily, and I'm not trying to vilify him, I'm just giving the facts by the numbers, because I could believe she made the whole thing up. Nothing surprises me. I could believe she made the whole thing up. That happens too. It's a double-edged sword. One end, she could be making it up. On another end, she may have been paid to keep quiet. That's a thing too. Maybe they offered her some money to make it go away. Like, look, he's got a big fight coming up worth millions of dollars. He's a couple $100,000. Shut the fuck up. We need to
just to be clear to everybody too, man. I'm not even talking about this recent issue. I'm talking about what was caught on video when he was at that celebrity basketball game. He didn't spend one sentence of time in jail for that. I don't know what kind of lawyers he got, but whatever lawyer he got, it did their job, because that was on camera. Him grabbing that girl by the neck and walking her out of that basketball game. There's no reason he shouldn't have went to jail for some period of time for that.
She probably didn't want to press charges, to be honest.
That's exactly what it is, probably.
And it's one of those things that, look, if you're talking about a fighter, and it's just a common sense argument that if you're talking about a fighter who at minimum he can get out there and generate, let's say, $1 million or $2 million, well, then there's enough money to play to say, hey lady, here's $100,000, shut the fuck up, don't press shit, you don't press no charges, and you shut the fuck up. And they'll shut the fuck up. It could be that way. But the other angle of it, which is I guess the more the darker angle of it, I should say, is that sometimes the abusers want to protect sometimes the abused, they want to protect the abuser. That happens too. It's a taboo subject, but it does happen that the abused wants to protect the abuser. That happens. So people treated her recanting as if, oh yeah, well that changed. No, it doesn't change everything. 80% of the time the abused recants. 80% of the time. So
Yeah, and we already know if he has a child with her, if they were in a relationship for any amount of time previous to her having the child, they probably had a lot of hostile arguments. They probably had a lot of issues going back. So this probably isn't the first time that they've had some kind of an issue that's blown up. But the realistic thing that people have to try to realize is that the longer that he's in this kind of a situation, if you're a Tank fan, you're hoping that this dude gets away from her immediately.
you
Because if
should be.
she's lying on you, if she's making stories up just because you don't let her use your vehicle, then that's not somebody that he should ever be around another minute of his life. He's supposed to be in training camp. He moved away from Baltimore to get away from all the drama. He's supposed to be in Florida focusing on a camp that he's finishing up a week before his fight. Why is his baby mother making drama and headlines the week before a fight? It makes no sense. Why is he around her?
Exactly, I'm glad you said that, because if you go with Tank's version of the story, what this is all about is him not letting her drive his truck, and what he's basically saying is that they're trying to extort him. That's his side of the story. The lengthy paragraph that he left on his Instagram, and I did a video about it. And if we just focus on what Javante said, and for those who believe him, never mind her, because they believe him. Okay, if we go with that, you're being extorted. So you should want him to get as far away from that woman as possible, if that's where it's at. And the fact that the system is set up the way that it is, so basically this lady can call 911, claim that I'm trying to kill her, even though I'm not. She can claim that I'm trying to kill her, look like she attacked him because his shirt was ripped up in the video that he posted. And she can do all this, and I can get arrested for it, even though I've done nothing. The system is fucked, man. It is.
Speaks volumes to the people he has around him too, because you got to realize that if you got a team around you, they're supposed to be the buffer between yourself and your family drama that you might have to deal with on a regular basis that you're trying to avoid while you're preparing for a fight. It could be stuff as small as ticket sales. It could be stuff as small as plane tickets to get to the fight, how many tickets that your family's going to get for a fight. Like, that's supposed to all be handled by your team. And if your team is letting this woman repeatedly come back to your house or letting her come back, like, there should be some type of a arranged baby drop off. If you want to see your daughter, I understand that. That's your child. You want to help raise your child. But there's no reason why you should have any interaction with her. It should simply be dropping the baby off. My manager will go get the baby, bring her to me, yada, yada, and we can deal it like that. I don't have to talk to you anymore. She shouldn't be at the fight and none of that. Shouldn't be around you no more.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the hit and run case is another one. Look, the way I see it is like this, bro. Even if he didn't lay a finger on that woman, which is possible, I don't dismiss that. You have to entertain both arguments. But even if he didn't lay a hand on that woman, we know for a fact he laid a hand on the other one, And that's not his only run-in with the law. There's the car accident that also, puts him in a very negative light. And that's why, to me, her recanting is not a big deal. Like, okay, well, 80% of women recant in this situation. It's actually commonplace. That doesn't necessarily mean he's innocent. And maybe that's a pessimistic and cynical way to look at things, but those are the facts. Usually, the person claiming to be abused recants. There could be a million reasons they recant. Maybe they were paid to recant, maybe, or maybe they're protecting their abuser. Or the alternative argument, maybe they made the whole fucking thing up. And if you go with this that you made up, the gravy train stops, at least with him, and you have to find a new gravy train. Because if you go forward with this and you pursue this, he goes to jail. He got arrested. If we go by what she said, oh, okay, so he never hit you. Your life was never in jeopardy. He wasn't him attacking you. He didn't hit you. He didn't hit your daughter. And you called the cops on him. Right. And because of that, he got arrested.
Yeah.
So what would have happened if you would pursue this that you made up, what would have happened then? He goes to prison.
Yeah, he don't get that check. He don't make
And
that
you
fight
don't
check.
get the, and you don't get that check. And that gravy train is over. You got to find somebody else now.
Yeah.
There's a million reasons that woman could have recanted. So it doesn't mean a lot to me. And the fact that there were people legitimate, some of them showed up in my comments, in the comments of my, oh, you need to, I don't need to do shit. I don't owe him an apology. She do. If anybody owe that man an apology, it's the mother of his child, not me. I've seen him hit women before. I've seen that. So why the fuck would I owe him an apology?
And I mean, we live in a culture now, man, where we're being pushed and encouraged to believe the stories of women when they say that they're being abused. So in that situation, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to believe when a woman says that somebody's been abusing her, when she's desperate for her life, calling and screaming on 911 phone calls, we're supposed to believe her. So if something different comes out later, it's not on the people that believed her to turn around and apologize to the guy that was lied on. It's for her to do the apologizing.
And athletes, athletes in general, they need to do better. Like, I just don't understand how in this day and age, because it's so, basically, I do feel this. He's probably being taken advantage of the same way that many athletes are taken advantage of, because they just nutting these broads that it's like, why are you doing that? If you want to get some pussy, get some goddamn pussy and get the fuck out of there. You pull out. Y'all having babies by these joints, and they only with you for one reason. If you was still in Baltimore and you wasn't a boxer and you ain't had millions of dollars, that same joint would not fuck with you, bro. You don't understand that?
She wouldn't even see you. She wouldn't even see you, bro. She wouldn't know you from John, bro. She wouldn't.
Like, for real, though. And I'm like, yo, us as men cannot be this dumb. Like, fam, why are you nutting in this? Like, you want to get some head from the joint? Hey, get some head from that joint. You want to get some ass from that joint? Why are you nutting in that joint? I don't understand that.
You gotta learn from the people that make the mistakes ahead of you, man. Like, you look up to Adrian Broner, right? For a long time, Adrian Broner was a guy you looked up to, right? Why didn't he have these conversations with you about, bro, choose the women you choose to have and share children with carefully? Because look at the stuff I've been through. Look at what Floyd has been through. Look at what Floyd had to deal with 3 different baby mothers. Now, he's cool with all of them now, but he wasn't necessarily. He did jail time for some stuff that happened with a woman that he chose to have children with. So you got to be careful out here, man. Not only if you're an athlete, but just in general as a person, man. You can't just be sharing your time and resources with just anybody.
And there's basically a subculture of women that actually target those athletes, be they boxers or football players. There's definitely a culture there of women that specifically go after football players and NBA players that, they want that, they trying to carry that kid because that's the gravy train right there. Once you have that kid, you set up for the next 18 years, you know what I mean? And I'm like, bro, like, you supposed to be like a street guy, and it's street guys that exercise more discretion than you do. Like, nah, I ain't out here just nut in your mouth. I ain't going nut in. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not giving you my last name. You bugging.
Yeah. Selective, man. Gotta be selective out here, because eventually you roll the dice enough, man. You're gonna crap out. One of these days he gonna crap out. He gonna do something to the wrong girl that's had enough money from all the other athletes she been with. She gonna get that one case where he went off and did something crazy, and then it's gonna be it, man. It's gonna be a wrap.
For real, like, I just that kind of situation is still happening in this day and age. When it's pronounced, it's defined. We know that it happens. We see it all the time. It's like, why are you nothing in it? But it just is what it is. And his situation, for better or worse, does appear to be reconciled. Doesn't appear that anything is going to come of it. He's not going to do any time. Not all for that. There's still the car thing. That case, that's still an open case. And we'll see what happens with that. But so far, he's got some really good lawyers, because he choked the broad on camera. He didn't do no time off that shit. Got some good lawyers. He says he doesn't have lawyers, but shit, something going on.
Gotta have lawyers to get out of a case like that, man. Ain't no way he didn't.
Yeah, like shit, man. Like, this motherfucker's doing time for less than what they recorded you doing to that broad. This motherfucker's doing time for less than that. But, that takes care of that. Errol Spence Jr. I was on Lady Chan's podcast earlier. Errol was a subject. And Quentin, what are you expecting to happen this year as it pertains to Errol?
To be honest, man, I think it's a toss up. I think it really will depend on what they really believe with Errol is the best case scenario for him. Like, I don't know whether he still easily can make 147 or not, whether what he's been saying about how hard it was previously to make it or not. But I know that having a long layoff and being out of commission for long periods of time, the fact that he's quote unquote supposedly injured again. I mean, I think they're going to do the Thurman fight, and I think if Crawford stands on his post and doesn't kind of just lay down to whatever negotiation deal they want to offer him, I think they're just going to move him up. I think they're going to move everybody up like they planned to originally before all this happened. They're going to move Jamel up to 60. They're going to move Jamal up to 68. They're going to move Spence up to 54, and then they're just going to leave it at that. I don't really think they really want to do the Crawford fight that badly. If they did, they would have done it a long time ago.
Virtuoso says, no matter whose side you're taking, Tank and Dookie Toothbrush Girl need to grow up and be better people for the kids. Enough with the drama. I'm going to say this, look, and there's grown-ass people that love drama, bro. Like, and I'm talking about not just 20s or late 20s. There's mid-30s. There's women in their 40s that love drama, bro. So, I mean, you really got to be careful. I put the onus more on him because he is a man of means, for better or worse. He is a millionaire. And oftentimes what we see in those situations is the God don't use no discretion. You better get on your Andrew Tate, bro. You get on your Andrew Tate and just, you the head of the household, you the king of the castle and all that shit. And pick the right joint, man. Pick the right joint. Because motherfuckers is making some grievous mistakes out here. Nothing in these broads. Do you really want that to be the mother of your children? Somebody that's willing to lie? If she did lie, which we don't know, but shit.
What you think, man? You think they're gonna do the Thurman fight? You think that's gonna be the next fight?
Absolutely, bro. Look, I would love to be wrong. I really would. I would love to be wrong. And they don't do the Thurman fight. They decide to revisit the Crawford fight. But why don't I believe that? When was Spence's last fight?
Shoot, what was it? Who was his last fight? Ugas. That was like June, right? Like June.
Around there, right? And it's hard for me to believe that, okay, you last fought in June or July, whenever it was, and that was the only fight you had this year. You got injured since then, and you're going to go right in there with Crawford? Really? I'm supposed to believe that? Nah, I don't believe that. I believe the safest option is Keith Thurman, and in all likelihood, that's who it's going to be. That was the same thing I thought about Danny Garcia. After the accident, they started talking about him coming back. I'm like, they're going to put him in there with Danny. They're going to put him in there with Danny. That's what they're going to do. They're talking about, oh, yeah, I don't do tune-ups. Danny is a tune-up. So is Thurman. He's a tune-up, bro. This is a quasi-retired fighter. He's the only welterweight that's more inactive than you are. So it's going to be Thurman.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, bro, because I mean, it's much better options out there for both of those guys when you talk about Thurman and Spence. And I think it'll just be kind of just biding their time, really, to me, to do a Spence Thurman fight. I mean, I think that's what's going to happen as well. But I mean,
well, their whole thing is keeping themselves afloat. So when you put everything in that realm, how do we keep Errol a name, and how do we keep him selling, and all these things? How do we continue on that and try to build upon that without putting him in harm's way? We take him to 154. We make him fight Carlos Ocampo. Why? Carlos looked. Not Carlos Ocampo. Sebastian Fundora. Right, and Fundora didn't look nothing special with that Ocampo.
Right.
So their rationale may be, well, if he had to go through the gears with Ocampo, Spence can beat him. And that'll be the direction they go, just because it covers all the bases for them, that if Fundora wins, well, at least he's our fighter, and maybe we could do a rematch after that. And if he loses, no shame in his game, because Errol's one of the best in the world. It just satisfies all the things that you would want if you were in their position. Putting him in there with Bud, they're not enterprising enough to see that, look, put him in there with Bud, And if he loses, just sign Bud to a 2-fight deal that caps off with a Jermel Charlo fight. If you give him what he wants, maybe he'll play ball. You're not really giving him anything. You're not a deal with no guaranteed cash, you know? And that's what he
Yeah.
said. So I'm going off of what he said. I'm not going to go off of the sources. I'm not going to go off of the rumors. I'm going to go off what he said because there's no way I know more about his deal than he does. And he said they didn't offer him nothing. Spence co-signed it that, yeah, I wasn't going to get nothing either. You still confirming what he said, bro. You basically
Right.
saying y'all offered that man a deal that ain't got no money. So I'm going off of that. And you're not gonna get it. I mean, like really though, like let's just stop being coy about it. It's a bad deal. It's a bad deal. Let's cut the
Yeah.
bullshit.
I mean, the unfortunate part about it, I think, is that they're not exploring all the avenues to where they could maximize the amount of money they could make from that fight. Because I think about it like this. Let's say they did that fight, talking about Spence and Crawford. They did that fight in Vegas, right? They put it on Showtime pay-per-view. Maybe it doesn't do, more than 400,000 buys in the US. But if they really wanted to make a lot of money from that, what they would be doing is they would sell those rights to that fight to Sky in the UK. They'd sell it to another international network, DAZN in Australia or wherever else. They'd sell it to wherever somebody wants to buy it
To
and
find the
broadcast
money,
the
that's
fight
right.
to find all the money that they could get in a guaranteed pot. But it's so US focused and so US centric that it's like, oh well, the only money we're going to make from this fight is going to have to be from the US
But
American
that's also
broadcasters.
but that's also how you know they don't want it because that's also how you know they don't want it because that is a viable avenue that you could go to Sky and say, well, if you got $1 million for us, we'll sell you the rights to this fight. Or you could go to a DAZN and say, well, if you have $10 million for us, you'll have the rights to this fight in several different markets around the world. We'll sell you the you say we'll sell you the Canada rights. We'll sell you the UK rights, the Australian rights for $10 million. If you got $10 million, we can play ball, or you can add some other territories in there so that you can be the official broadcaster of this fight in, say, 10 territories. We'll give you a territory per million. We'll play with the numbers, but it's basically what we've always said. When you want to do it, you do it. When you don't want to
Right.
do it, you don't do it because the
Yeah.
money is there. The money is there. People in the UK would love to have that, for example, as not a pay per view, just a part of their subscription. They would stay up
Mhm.
till the early hours of the morning to see that fight. And if the zone could give it to them as part of their subscription, not a pay per view,
Mhm.
they'd love it.
Yeah, and more to your point, bro. I mean, both the UK fans, especially, whether they've seen these guys in person, which they have, they've been all over this fight just as much as US boxing fans have been because the reality is both guys have fought British boxing well-known fighters before. Spence went to the UK, Crawford went to the UK. He fought Kell Brook in the US, who's, there's a following behind both of those guys outside of the US. And it's just unfortunate that they're not exploring those avenues to try to get as much money into that pot as possible. But realistically, man, I think the only other option if Spence Crawford doesn't happen after this, what we're saying is a hypothetical Thurman fight, in my mind, is if Virgil beats Stanionis. I think that's the only fight where I think that they would realistically play ball because I think that Virgil would be in a position where he would be happy being the smaller B side. And I think that Golden Boy would sign off on that because, that fight is going to be huge in Texas down here in Texas.
And I don't think they're good. Like that's another thing that like there's fights there that if Errol really were who they say he is, there's enough money tacked on that in theory he should want them. You see what I mean? That like basically, okay, if he's really this pound for pound, he's this era Sugar Ray Leonard and all of that. The Ortiz fight is a major fight in Texas. That's a major fight. And that's a fight that would do well at the box office because of the Chicano element that they're going to buy that fight. It's not just Spence's fans. The Chicanos are going to buy that fight too. They fuck with it. They love that fight. That fight could do 600,000 if you promote it right. And the fact that, at least to me, they're not going to explore that. Why aren't they going to explore it? That's the question. And what I think, this dude was holding him together is scotch tape and bubble gum. He's not he's not what people think he is because
Uh,
if he were, how does it become about Keith Thurman, and it's a blame game, bro. If you that guy, you'd be moving like Canelo. Canelo did what he had to do to get Plant in the ring. Whatever. I'm getting him in the ring. And it's
Bigger
that's
ring, special gloves on your network, whatever you want to do. You pull out of the fight 3 offers we've made to you. I'm gonna do it on the 4th time. Whatever we got to do.
and that's how it would get done if it really were about making the best fight. The idea that we have to listen to people pretend that Keith Thurman, like, bro, give me a break, bro. That dude has fought once in the last like three. It's like it's close to 3 years because the last fight before the Barrios fight was the Pacquiao fight. He didn't fight in 2020. He didn't fight in 2021, and he only fought once last year. His next fight, presumably the Spence fight, that's April. That's one fight in 3 years. One fight. How could he
That
be in a
one
league?
fight was against a dude from 140 who they say that he looked good against, but it was that dude was coming off of a knockout loss against a lightweight. I mean, it's funny to me, man. I mean, I don't know what kind of bag PBC had to give the WBC to get that to be a final eliminator, but that's crazy to me that they would just all of a sudden use Thurman against Barrios as a final eliminator for a mandatory slot that skips ahead of 2 other sanctioning bodies. Like, how?
Exactly.
Spence won the WBC belt after the IBF by like 3 years.
That's what I'm saying. That the first belt that Errol won was the IBF title. And he hasn't satisfied a mandatory for them in like 3 or 4 years, right? Now, I remember reading that the Danny Garcia fight satisfied the WBC requisite. I have to fact check it, but I do vaguely remember reading that. The WBA, well, you just won that belt this year, so obviously you haven't satisfied a mandatory for them. But the IBF, in theory, should be next in the rotation because that's the first belt you won, and you haven't satisfied a mandatory for them in a millennium. So what is going on here? And it's pure chicanery that you end up with a WBC mandatory, even though there was already a WBA mandatory in the queue before you even won the belt. Before you won the belt from Ugas, Stanionis was the mandatory.
Right.
And you don't got to fight him. Forget him. No, you got to fight Thurman. That barely ever fights.
Whatever bag they gave the IBF, that's the same bag that Jamel gave the IBF too, because Jamel still ain't fought that IBF mandatory.
And that dude been waiting since 2019, bro. Shit is nuts. Virtuoso says Thurman teased it right after the Barrios fight. We should have knew then. He did say that too. He did say after the Barrios fight that Spence is. I mean, it's a conspiracy theory that I have, but it's based on what I see. That I firmly believe there's a dry erase board somewhere, or a whiteboard, where they map out how all of this is going to happen. That, okay, well, this year you're going to sit out and he's going to fight. You're going to sit out and he's going to fight. And this is going to lead to that. I firmly believe that somewhere in an office, there is a dry erase board that maps out the year in PBC, because he knew that ahead of schedule, Thurman. He knew that Spence would be next.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
going to
was
be real
almost
interesting, man. I'm looking forward to seeing when Showtime or PBC or whoever is going to put out a couple of fights that are non-pay-per-views, because that's going to tell us a lot, bro. That's going to tell us everything that we need to know about this year when it comes to what kind of budgeting they're going to get, how many cards are they going to do, because all of these pay-per-view fights, man, it doesn't cost that network any money to put that fight on a platform and just slap a PPV on it. But it's going to come out when they got to front that money to all of these fighters and put it on free-to-air TV. That's what I'm looking for, because they still haven't talked about any of that. None of these fights have been confirmed to be on free-to-air TV.
And, I think that Stefan said something along the lines of 23 fights. I remember that, Drew was giving him the business. He was talking to him on Twitter. And
Stefan's funny, bro.
Stefan said something about 23 fights. And then Drew ain't no dummy. He asked him, well, what amount of those 23 fights, out of that 23, how many of them are pay-per-view shows? Because depending on how many, that's not part of your budget You know, your budget, your boxing budget, you could be doing what Fox was doing. And we know what Fox was doing. We're not going to pay for none of this shit. We'll give you a platform to show these fights. But as far as the money to pay for them, you better hope it comes from the fans because it ain't going to come from us. And then, according to Marcos Villegas, who was with the production team on Inside PBC on Fox, he was working there for a time. He said that Fox is out of boxing, man. They're not paying all that shit that we've been seeing on Fox. They wasn't paying for none of that shit. The PBC was paying for that out of their own pocket. Fox was just taking a cut because it is our platform. But essentially what that means is that the production costs, they weren't even coming from the network. It could be the same thing on Showtime. Like, yeah, y'all going to put, like, let's say 5-6 fights on pay-per-view, but Showtime ain't paying for them shits. Y'all just doing what y'all was just doing at Fox. So what amount of these 23 fights are going to be pay-per-views?
I'm sticking to my projection, bro. PBC is going to end up on Fight TV.
Probably.
They're going to end up on Fight TV. They've already been letting some of their PPVs go to Fight. I think they're going to end up on Fight TV with their regular non-pay-per-view cards. They might get to keep, the Showtime slots for pay-per-view just to kind of get some more pay-per-view sales because people are more familiar with it. But I think those regular cards are going to end up being those, those affordable pay-per-view fights, those $9.99 cards, those $2.99 cards. I don't think
if they end up on Fight, Quentin, that's the end, bro. If they, and I'm not dismissive of that because I thought of that they're already in bed with Fight. Whatever pay-per-views end up on Fox, they also end up on Fight. So that could be where they go if, something happens to Showtime. They might end up on Fight. If they end up on Fight, well, look, man, that's nearing the end. Yeah. Fight is not a major platform.
Nah, it's just funny, man, because like everything is coming full circle. All of these dudes and all of these PBC fans who were talking about how DAZN is just this, this obscure app that nobody's ever heard of and yada, yada, yada. Well, number one, Floyd fought on it, right? And then now Tank is about to fight on it in a couple of months if he wins his fight. They might end up having the whole, promotional company go to Fight TV, which is an even smaller app. And the funny part is I haven't heard one word from Leonard. Haven't heard one word from Leonard since the Tank release. Haven't heard one word.
And you know that Fight is owned by Triller. They bought it last year.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that on the app. When you open the app up, it says by Triller right below Fight. Yeah.
They bought that shit. So that would be tantamount to saying that at least it's possible that the PBC may end up going to Triller. And let me tell you, Triller tries very hard to beat TikTok, but you can tell that not many people use Triller based on, they're more popular videos. They're not that popular at all. Like you look at a TikTok video, million motherfuckers or 100,000 or 14,000, right? You look at a Triller joint, because I was just looking at it because I was curious, like who uses this shit? And then I went on it and I'm looking at it, 100 people, like something. 1,000 people, like 1,000, bruh. I go on TikTok, whole motherfucking country been done like some dumb shit they seen. So them going to Triller / Fight, that I feel that would herald the end, or that they're close to the end. There's just not enough there to stay afloat, is what I see. They got a couple of kids coming through. The Frank Martin kid, the Brandon Lee kid. I don't think much of Joey Spencer, to be completely honest with you. He's not even on my radar as far as prospects, but they got him, right? But these are the people that are going to keep the PBC afloat for the next generation. Frank Martin, Joey Spencer,
Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee, yeah.
I mean, and then when we look around, well, Top Rank, they've got Spartans, man. They got Jared Anderson, Keyshawn and Kelvin, Richard Torres, Shushu Carrington, Rotisserie Ramirez, motherfucking they got a couple of other kids too. Because that's not all of them. They got a couple of Puerto Rican kids, the Armani kid, the Bowser kid, Xander. They got Sinicia Estrada. She's not a prospect, but they got Sinicia Estrada. And I'm like, bruh, how? And, Matchroom has their thing they're doing, too. I don't want to discount them. They just signed Dalton Smith. That kid's got a future. You see
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
They
I
signed
think
they signed a couple of other kids. I forgot their names, but I'm like, I see that they're signing people, and then I look over. Okay, well, what does the PBC have?
yeah.
Upgrade the ring.
They're not invested in the future. They haven't signed anybody realistically that's going to be in the game 5, 10 years from now. And it's clear because all of the guys that they sign and all the guys they bring in are veteran guys, familiar guys, guys in their 30s, guys that are in their mid 30s. And I think, man, just to go back to the Dalton Smith thing, I said this in passing in a tweet maybe about 2 or 3 months ago when people were talking about whether Devin Haney would go back to DAZN or go back to Eddie Hearn when his top rank deal is up. Whether he does or not is still up for debate. But I'll tell you one thing: if he does, the number one fight that needs to be on that list is a Dalton Smith fight in the UK.
Oh yeah.
Devin moves up to 140. Dalton Smith is well groomed. He's well schooled. He gets a strong following in Sheffield. That's a huge fight that they could do eventually in the UK because they already brought Devin Haney over there. They were supposed to do the Luke Campbell fight in the UK, if you remember. That's
Yeah.
the fight that Eddie wanted to do, but that fight ended up not happening because Ryan ended up getting made as, the secondary mandatory at the WBC slot. So I think that's a great fight to happen in the future if he does go back to Eddie.
Yeah, I don't think personally. I don't really think he goes back to Eddie because the stable is not developed enough yet at 140 to keep Devin busy. The belt situation at 140 is very fragmented. The IBF is basically at the PBC, and then the WBA is over there too. The WBO is over there at Top Rank, Catterall versus Taylor 2. And the WBC, Regis has got it. So if you're Devin, it may not even be about the titles because, that Lopez fight, if you go up there and you fight Lopez, belt or no belt, that will sell. That will sell. And it's a winnable fight that if you go up there, you better not fight Prograis. You better wait for him to get old because he'll fuck you up. He'll fuck you up. He'll fuck Teofimo up. He'll fuck Tank up. He'll fuck Ryan up. He'll fuck all of you. He'll spank all of you like your kids is what'll happen. So,
realistically, Prograis is number 2 right now, bro. He's back at number 2 at 140. There's no reason anybody should have him any lower than number 2.
Prograis is the fucking guy, man. He's the fucking guy. And until Taylor gives us a reason to believe in him again, because and I think that he's going to. I do have him beating Jack Catterall in the rematch. But what does he do after that? What if it's too hard to keep making 140, right? You're going to go to welterweight then and fight who? Crawford, I guess. If I'm Crawford, I go to Sky.
I'll take that deal. If I'm Crawford, I'm not trying to mess
Sky.
with these bozos with the PBC and these fake deals that they're offering with these no guarantees. Give me some of that Sky money. I'll come to Glasgow.
If he wants it in Glasgow, we do it in Glasgow. I am with the shit. Because I look at Taylor and I think, the money fights for Taylor are at 40, but can he really keep making it? That, if you can make 40, then you're going to want Lopez. Now is the time to get his scrawny little ass in the ring and show him some shit, if you're Taylor. But can Taylor make 140? And I don't know.
Yeah, man. And the other part, too, is how are they going to make all of these big fights for Taylor happen if he can't come to America?
Oh no, Lopez has got to go to the UK, bro.
Yeah, he's got to. He's got to go to the UK. But I think that there possibly is an argument there that if Lopez finds any reason in his mind that he can get any kind of advantage, he can say, "Well, nah, it makes more money in the US," which it may not. It might not. But I mean, it's a toss-up. It's 50-50.
No, you hit the nail on the head because this is the other thing. Lopez and his father can say what they want when the cameras is rolling, right? Those are the kind of fighters that don't want to travel.
Right.
They don't want to travel. Like, a big part of the reason that we are where we are is because they didn't want to go to Australia. Triller wanted them, and you see that Devin ain't give a fuck about that shit. Like, man, I don't care about that shit. We go to Australia. I'm still going to beat him 2 times. Okay, I'll beat him 2 times. That could have been Lopez if they were confident. They didn't want to go to Australia.
Yeah.
So how confident can we be that they're going to go to the UK?
Yeah, I mean, the more interesting part about that than anything else is that it seems like at this point Josh is in a tough position because all of the best guys for him to fight would have to come and see him in the UK, even though there's not necessarily a reason for them to do so. Like if you're talking about a fight where, let's say he wants to rematch Prograis, well, Prograis is going to sit there and say, well, no, I'm a world champion again. I fought you in Glasgow the last time. We should do that fight in America. Well, that's not an option right now, or at least it doesn't seem like it's an option. I really don't see where Josh can go after this fight, and I think he sacrificed a lot to try to get this rematch over the line when he'd probably have a little bit more pull if he had done whatever fight he had to, before he came back to this. Because Jack's not moving up. Jack's a smaller guy.
Yeah, Jack's not going anywhere, bro. He
So they
wins
could have
that
easily
title.
come back to that fight. They could have come back to that fight.
Yeah, like if you're Jack and you win the WBO, he has a Sky deal too. Don't forget that. He has a Sky deal. I remember a couple of weeks ago, I saw Florian Marcoux say that he's going down to 40. And I'm like, so if he goes down to 40, they got a couple of more players in there that you could do a Catterall versus Marcoux. It's not a great fight, but you can do it. And I just think about all these things, and what I see is what may happen this year is so far from what we thought that I could see Crawford versus Prograis on Black Prime. I could see that happening. I could also see Crawford versus Taylor on Sky. I could see that happening. I could, I like the idea of Taylor versus Lopez, but we got to see Taylor. So I don't know how material that's going to be until we see him and we see how he looks with Catterall for the second time. Because what I am confident of is we're not getting Spence versus Crawford. We're not getting that. So what do we get in the interim? And I saw Crawford. He released a tweet. Something along the lines of see you guys next year, Black Prime, something along those lines. And we know that Top Rank doesn't want to work with Regis, so we're not going to get Regis versus Lopez any more than we were going to get Regis versus Ramirez. So where does Prograis go? Prograis goes to Black Prime. Crawford already did a thing with Black Prime. See what I mean? Maybe we get Prograis versus Crawford on Black Prime, right? Because they got the kind of money. The money, for all accounts, Bud said he got his money. Bob said that he knows Evanesian got his money because it was already in escrow. He said that. So if the money is real and they can make fights happen, maybe we get Prograis versus Crawford at 147. Because, really.
Prograis been talking about wanting to go up to 147 for a while, even before he had this resurgence again at 140. He's been talking about how it's tough for him to make the weight, and he's an older guy now, so I could definitely go for a Prograis versus Crawford fight. The interesting part is going to be if Spence moves up to 154. Where is all the elder belts going to end up going? Are they going to automatically elevate Ennis?
If Virgil
going to get automatically updated to
Virgil will, with Ennis, let's say this. At minimum, we know if Virgil beats Stanionis and then the super goes vacant because Errol moves up, he'll get elevated to champion. That's what will happen to him. The same will happen to Boots. Where does the BC go? I'm not sure. I got to look at those rankings to see where does the BC go, because I'm really not sure what happens with that. But in a nutshell, if the focal point or the yardstick, the compass, as it were, for the landscape this year, if you don't know nothing else, what you may be confident of is Spence and Crawford are not fighting. So what will Crawford do this year? We have a good idea what Spence might do. Move up to 54 to the next PBC stronghold. But where does Crawford go? Well, Sky might have some money for him to fight Josh Taylor.
The other play too, and this is something else to think about, which is going to take another fight happening or another win happening that I don't necessarily know will happen. But Liam Smith beats Eubank. He goes back to 154, right? Jermell moves up in those WBO, WBA, the WBC, IBF titles all go vacant. What if Crawford moves up to 154 and he fights Liam Smith on Sky for the WBA title?
Look, I would love for Liam.
That's a great fight, bro. I would love to see it.
I would love for Liam to beat Chris Eubank Jr., but realistically, he's not going to win that fight. He's not going to win that fight. He's going to get knocked out. I think
I need
he's
somebody to shut up Eubank, bro. I really
Me
do,
too, bro. But he's one of those guys. I'm with you. Like, I need him to lose. I need it. But he's a smart fucker. Like, he picks. Look at the fights that he picks, bro. Like, yeah, you want to fight Beefy because you know Beefy ain't no bitch. He'll fight you. But Beefy really is a 54 more than a 60. He really is. You know, the fight with Fowler, that was at 54. You know, he's not really a 60. Fucking Chris, he done fought at 68 before, you know? So he's not going to win that fight, bro. He's going to get knocked out, man.
Possibly.
Let me read this.
Anyway, man, I'm going to go ahead and bounce off, bro. Appreciate the time. Good talking to you, man. I'll see you on the next one.
I see you on the next one, bro. I'm gonna post the link for the people in the chat. You know, last half hour. If PBC is gonna be a Fight app exclusive, it might be a good thing because web-only pay-per-view cuts out the middleman, the cable and satellite provider. Yes, but what kind of budget are they gonna get moving forward on Fight, and more importantly, what kind of exposure will their fighters get? You have to remember that these are the people that told me and you, the consumers, that, oh yeah, DAZN ain't shit. Who the fuck watches an app? Yada, yada, yada. Well, I'll tell you what. I think more people know about DAZN, and I think more people are subscribed to DAZN than they're subscribed to Fight.
Yep. What's goody, Jules?
What's goody, man?
Dude, so Gamboa gets arrested in Cuba for hitting somebody driving with the lights.
What was he doing in Cuba?
They said he wasn't even drunk. He drove somewhere with the lights off and hit a pedestrian on a sidewalk area.
Look, it's over. I mean, it's over for him, bro. Like,
and they said he's behind bars. They're working on trying to help him and stuff. But they said he's a very religious guy and he was not under the influence of alcohol at all.
Well, I mean, it's hard to run over somebody and justify it, you know, that you weren't drunk, you just didn't see them. Well, what the fuck are we gonna do with you then? You know, what are we gonna do?
I mean, but that's whack, dude. Just drove. Why would you drive with the lights off at night and you end up?
Bro, why was he in Cuba, bro? Is what I want to know. Didn't you try to get away from there? Why were you in Cuba?
Good evening, niggers. How you guys doing? Good evening.
Bro, why would you say that? Why would you say that? Now my shit gonna get flagged.
You gonna get flagged?
For that?
You gonna get flagged? I was just playing.
I am.
Chris, you're new to YouTube, bro?
Yeah, I'm not a content creator. I'm just saying Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man.
All right, let me read this. Let me read this. That guy says, could 140 eclipse 147 over the next 2 years? I say no. I say no because it's divided down there now. You know, it's divided. 2 of the belts are on PBC. 1 of the belts is on Top Rank, and the other one is in the air, which is Progray's belt. We don't know what he's gonna do. We don't know. The WBC said he can fight a voluntary, but what does that really mean, though? Top Rank won't work with him. I hope he doesn't go to the PBC, because if he does, all right, then he ain't gonna fight. He ain't gonna fight if he go over there then. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
140 looked great, man, at one point in time. It was the cruiserweight division of the lower weights where people fought. They weren't on no bullshit. Because that's the only division that had 2 undisputed champions in quick succession of each other.
In the last 10 years, bro. You absolutely right.
Years, man. Yeah,
absolutely right.
But
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But at the end of the day, man, we just got to look at it from this perspective. Once everything goes to PBC, it goes to shit. So, guys, fight. Make sure you get those undisputed belts and make the PBC guys come over there. Or, you know.
No, I mean, because it's fucked. If you think about it, it's fucked, bro. Like, it really is, because Ponce and Matias, that's for the IBF. Look at how fucking long that's taking, bro. It's taking forever, and they been stripped Josh. Like, he been gave up the IBF. Ain't no motherfucking reason that shit shouldn't have happened last year, because he gave it up months ago. What? Way before. And we still don't have Ponce versus Matias, even though that's for the IBF. The Puello guy, listen, bro, I'm Dominican, okay? Don't tell me shit. I'm Dominican and I don't give a fuck about him. I'm sorry. What the fuck do you want me to say?
That's your man. Don't do that. That's your midden.
I'm
You
doing
bang
that
He's a
shit.
you bang
he's a
out there.
Dominican Sandor Martin. They have like the exact same style.
Bro, I don't want to see that. I want Prograde, man. I gotta interview Prograde, man. I'm like, yo, man, look, man, you better fucking get away from Pro Bellum, sign the top rank, and let's get this goddamn money, bro. Shit.
Can I say one thing about that though? It's like I feel like Top Rank is treating Prograde the way PBC is treating Bud.
They are.
Like they don't want him in the hen house.
Because
Progressive, look, Progressive.
I think it has more to do with Pro Bellum than it does. They're scared of like Taylor losing the belts to him. I think it's more about like, you know, that whole legal thing that's going on.
That and in tandem with, look, let's say that, you know, because I do agree with you, it's been mentioned more than once that the Pro Bellum angle and the Kinahan angle have a lot to do with why they're not interested in him. But let's just say that he weren't with Pro Bellum. Let's just say that he were a free agent in the free sense of the word. Unless they bring him into the fray, why would they let him beat the shit out of Teofimo when we all know that's what he would beat the shit out of Teofimo, bro?
He beat the dog shit out of Teofimo. And Teofimo Pops was talking real greasy.
No one ain't gonna fight though, but no one ain't gonna fight.
He'll take
Exactly.
Tio Senior's gold outfit.
Bro,
Like, first of all, Tio Senior, you're a rat. You're a rat. You're a snitch. You cooperated with the police and you made a deal, okay? So everything all that gangster shit, bro, you're like Adi Boom. We don't believe you, okay? Now, like to your son. Your son, yeah, for real, B. Let's keep it a buck. Your son is going through it now because at the end of the day, let's really keep it a buck. Teofimo Lopez, ever since, you know, he lost to George Kambosos, his mental health has been fucking trash. He's been recanting statements. Like this dude had a genuine moment saying, "Yo, do I have it anymore?"
he did.
Well, people are saying
And he went on that show to say, "Oh, this was reverse psychology on some fucking George Kambosos."
Bro, he's all over the place, bro. Like he really is.
No, bro. His wife is on. You know, his former ex-wife on some bullshit. He's like, yo, bro. So at the end of the day, it's prime for Regis Prograde to really fuck up your son. And mind you, Regis is an explosive puncher, but Regis, as of late, has been taking people out later and later.
Bro, let me tell you something. Regis
don't want him beating them up.
Regis is the hammer of God at 140 right now, bro. If he fight Taylor right now, he probably beat Taylor right now, because he hit too hard, and I need to see what Taylor really has, and that's why I feel like this year,
This is being unfair because this is only one fight.
But let me say this. What we're gonna get, I feel, is really not what we expect, because Crawford, what he gonna do, it's in the air. Prograde, what he gonna do, it's in the air. Yeah, I mean, what Lopez going, it's kind of in the air. I feel like he gonna fight the winner of Ramirez versus Comey. That's what my gut tells me. That he probably gonna wait to come back in the summer and then fight the winner of that fight. That he might sit out the first quarter and come back in the second quarter. Because I'm like, bro, I don't really know who they could find for you to fight. Barboza about to fight Pedraza. Ramirez about to fight Comey. Who you gonna fight? You can't go back to fighting Camposes and shit like that. Motherfucker, like really though, like it can't be from Martin to Campo to another Campos guy, Campos, whatever.
A lot of people are saying that they think Tio's actually, like regressing, like he's not getting better. He's like
he needs Joey Gamache back in his corner. Sorry to cut you off, country.
No, it's okay.
He needs him in his corner because at the end of the day, Joey Gamache shows him things that he can do. But I'm telling you, I think he fucked it up because on principle, a lot of these old dudes don't want to train American fighters because they know what they come with. Like, I know Russian fighters, they do their bullshit a la Sergey Kovalev, but for the most part, what I see with Russian fighters, they're very loyal to the American trainers that they're with, like Johnny Beck. Like, a lot of them dudes, they come to America, learn that American style from certain coaches, and they do well. They do well, and they do
well. Yeah, but also too, it's a different dichotomy when you're talking about a foreigner that comes to America for work, basically, because that's how I look at it. That if you're talking about like you said, you got a Kazakh fighter, he pairs up with a Buddy McGirt. Well, he ain't in America to play. You feel me? If you wanted to play, you stay in Kazakhstan and you play over there. Out here, you here to work. And that's what I see about the foreign fighters. That, yeah, it seems like the foreign fighters are more workhorses because when they come to America, that's what we here for. We here to bang. We ain't here to play. We here to bang.
Like in Tio's case, you know his father's like interfering with shit with the trainer though too, because he's probably acting stupid. And I'm sure that's also a big thing. Certain fighters, they have their dads interfering, i.e. Danny Garcia, Tio, etc. That a lot of them trainers probably don't want to deal with that shit. I wouldn't. I'd be like, man, these dudes need to get the fuck out of here. I'm training.
Let me read the super chat. Mark says, sign me up for Crawford versus Prograis fight. I'll take that 5 times on Saturday. And I view that as a possibility. I do view it as a possibility for 2 reasons. If Black Crown had $10 million to do a fight like Crawford and Avanesian, maybe they could find a few more million to do a Crawford versus Prograis. Maybe they could. Prograis might take it because even if I lose to Crawford at 147, it doesn't affect my status as a champion at 140. It doesn't. Like, I can lose at 147 and still keep my belt at 40, and I'll make a couple M's.
Fight for both though. Like Crawford, like that. Both of them is going to leave fucked up after that fight because they both skillful. I have Terrence Crawford winning. Don't get it fucked up, guys. I'm not crazy.
I agree.
I may have a little Freudian slip, wink, wink, but like I'm not crazy. But that's a tough fight, man.
Yeah, but it's also for them, their mobility is hindered because if you Prograis, right? Look, the PBC they don't got no big fights for you. They got belts over there, feel me? They do got belts. Like, they could probably get you Puello and shit, but the money that he want to make, they ain't got that, bro. They don't, bro. Like,
that's a top rank. That's a top rank for him.
No. I'm talking about if Prograis want the major fight, the ones that got a profile, you got to fuck with Top Rank, bro. They got Lopez over there. They got Ramirez over there. You been wanting to fight him. They got motherfucking Taylor and Cataract. Or you got, they got that shit. Those is the important fights with a profile at 40. Other than that, what you gonna do?
Hey, Jules, you mind if I ask you a quick question off topic?
Go ahead.
So with the rise of the third-party backers that we're seeing nowadays becoming more and more commonplace, how likely do you think it is for these guys to put the big fights together, being that third-party backers don't have the kind of currency that a major network would have? Like you got Prograis with Probellum, you got Terrence Crawford with BLK Prime, and then you also have Showtime. Yeah, and then you have Showtime.
Well, bear in mind, bro, that a third-party backer, a major platform has a third-party backer, and that's Sky. Whoever's giving them all that money to give the fucking Okolis and Chris Billum Smiths of the world, it's like it's more along the lines of the question you should be asking is who wants to fight, and most of the people, they don't want to fight, bro. Most of these guys don't want to fight. These fights that we're talking about, a lot of them, they're not going to happen.
The reason why you're.
Oh, go ahead.
So what you're saying?
I just want to say real quick that I just want to respond to this guy's comment. It's like I think you're seeing more third-party backers because the networks that are worth a lot of money are divesting from boxing.
Yeah, they're not putting up as much money. Is what's going on.
Probably because people are fighting each other.
But when you're dealing with boxers that are this undisciplined, and you're dealing with people like Al Heyman who don't really do good business, that's what you have. Because you got to remember, Al Heyman has the majority of the boxers in America. Whether we like it or not, he has the most boxers per stable on that side of the street.
No, I disagree. I think Top Rank has more American boxers than he does.
But marginally. And one thing, hey, Bob Arum is still alive, man, and I don't know for how much longer. I'm not trying to.
Well, I like to thank the honorable Bob Arum.
I feel you on that, Chris. But remember that Todd Duboff, Carl Moretti, Bruce Trampler. That's Top Rank too. So God forbid that something did happen to Bob. I hope nothing happens to him. I hope he lives to be 1,000.
But it's like this though. It's like you know the big homie on the block, right? He the motherfucker that everybody look up to, everybody respect. And yo, the big homie may be the smart big homie who's grooming his underlings to be like him one day. But they may do the business good, but they don't have the the prestige of the big homie because the big homie is one of one. You feel me? So like,
I do understand that. It would be a dampener if something happened to him. So I don't disagree with you.
I think they might, try to test Bob Top Rank, like, oh, you guys is weak. Bob Arum ain't no over there. And let's also know what Bob Arum is as a person in terms of, religion and status. Let's not act like that doesn't play a big part.
Let's not act like Todd Duboff ain't in the family, bro. Cut the shit.
I feel you, but I'm also but Robert Arum is a lot different from Todd Duboff. But I understand what you're coming from. But I'm talking about, I just see, like, I hope Bob Arum stays alive. I don't really particularly like dude, but for the sake of boxing, I hope he stays alive because I think they might try to play Top Rank and they might try to bring him into the morass of shit that has become American boxing. You feel me,
bro? That'd be all right. That'd be all right. What I'm gonna say is, H Don asks, what is your view on the trainer for Joshua in the U.S.? Look, if you want my honest opinion, I would think outside the box because that's usually where the best answers are. Anthony Joshua needs a guy who's not a factory assembly line trainer, in my humble opinion. He needs a closer, more personal touch, and he needs to be isolated from a lot of things. I firmly believe, I know that somebody said it, that he retired, but I still think Abel Sanchez would be a good fit. If the goal is to make Anthony more aggressive like he used to be, that is a trainer that specializes in aggressive fighting and aggressive fighters. Murat Gassiev, Gennady Golovkin, that's what he's good for. That's what he's good at. Making you a bit more.
Sure his head's
hey,
off the line,
did
man,
you
because
hear
he doesn't
Liam
have the
Smith
timidity
saying
like
that
this.
Anthony Joshua has a mental disorder or something?
No, I didn't hear that, but I mean,
yeah, there was an article about it. He was saying that. I don't know if it's true, but that's what he was saying. Liam Smith.
I mean, whatever he has going on does seem to be psychological, but if we're just talking about trainers and who should train him, I think Abel Sanchez would be a good fit. I don't think Derek James is a bad fit. It's not a bad fit, to be honest. But my problem with Derek James, if he decided to go to him, is that is a trainer with a full plate. He's got the Charlo brother, he's got Spence, he's got Frank Martin, and a couple of other guys in there. If you need something that's a little bit more personal, so I would say Joey Gamache before Derek James. I would say Abel Sanchez before Derek James. I would have said Buddy McGirt, but Buddy's got a full plate. He's got a lot of guys over there. Callum Smith, Dillian White, this kid, the Kazakhstan kid, Yanni Beck. He's got a lot of guys over there. And I think what Anthony needs is a personal approach. And more importantly, I just think he needs to change his decorum, not specific to the trainer, but because it allows you to tune out the bullshit and focus on what you're doing. I don't think that he should be in the UK anymore. I think he needs to change his environment, change his surroundings, because irrespective of the trainer, that will provide a benefit unto itself. That if you move to America and you relocate to America and you're here most of the time, you won't have the same celebrity here. Some people are going to recognize you, granted, but you won't have the exact same celebrity here and the exact same scrutiny here that you did over there. You need to get.
I gotta ask you a question, Jules in chat. I gotta ask you guys a question. Do you think the pressure got to him in the second Usyk fight, and do you think he mentally broke? Because
absolutely,
listen, Chris, hold on.
I think, no, hold on, just 1 second. I think his whatever that was at the end of the fight, I think that was his anxiety collapsing in on itself.
Chris,
he literally trained for months. He had a career where he's like the best guy in the world for years, and he literally just can't get past the small cruiserweight. So I think that broke him. But just to answer the question quickly, I personally don't think he has to come to the U.S. I think he could go back to Tony Sims or go to Grant Smith or somebody like that in the U.K. and he'd be fine. But I don't know, maybe Joe Goosen, but I think he has Andy. If I was thinking American trainers that are available, maybe Joe Goosen if he doesn't.
He doesn't have Andy anymore, bro.
I was going to say Joe
Here's
Goosen.
the thing, though. I don't think it broke him because if it broke him, he wouldn't have took the rematch, bro. He wouldn't have gotten in there and
No, you're talking about the second fight, bro.
Yeah, I'm talking about he I don't think it broke him though. I think the frustration of like, damn, I even went to a new trainer and I did better. Like he did better, but he still couldn't come over the hump. If it breaks him, if he loses his next fight and he looks like shit.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, can I say something real quick?
He's in limbo still. I'd say that's fair.
Let me say
think,
this.
Jules?
What do you think,
ahead.
Jules? Oh, okay. I want to say this. If I'm seeing a lot more of this mental health bullshit popping up in boxing, and I think if you have mental problems, you need to quit. Because don't give me that bullshit about how you were mentally broken, during a rematch or whatever. Listen, Tommy Hearns was training for his rematch with Sugar Ray Leonard when his brother was sitting in jail after killing somebody in his house. Don't talk to other people about the stress that you go through in your daily life, because at the end of the day, you still got to punch into work. Same as when you step in that ring.
Thomas Hearns is an Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, that sounds
But what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter if it's a Tommy Hearns. It doesn't matter if it's, Canelo and his brother getting picked up by the cartel. Yeah. So, like, this mental health shit, it's a staple of boxing. It's not a problem. I don't think that people need to keep talking about it because we all have issues.
And I'll say that it's a staple of sports that, yes, there is a lot of pressure because high-level sports have high-level pressure. If you're a Tiger Woods, if you're a Serena Williams, if you're a Michael Phelps, if you're a Usain Bolt, yes, there's going to be pressure. And what's consistent with this generation that I notice is that there's just all these pity parties going on that you'd rather that people pity you than you just rebuild yourself, bro. Stop expecting everyone to feel sorry for you.
Let me just say this real quick.
I agree with what you're saying right there.
They crumble under pressure.
But here's the thing. I agree with what everybody's saying. But in this climate now, with the foot, everything's different now. And if you go back to all the high-level athletes like Tiger, like Jordan, like LeBron, they say their mental health is critical. And what do they do to prevent from having collapses? They routinely see psychiatrists and sports psychologists. So they're doing preemptive work to address that in the off season. The problem I have with athletes now is they'll use that after a loss instead of saying, well, let me proactively do this while I'm working out my physical and work on my mental at the same time.
But can we also say this, Drew? What percentage of mental health cases genuinely address mental health? Because mental health is a broad spectrum statement. That could mean a lot of things. You know what I mean? When Ryan says it, well, I thought it was bullshit. And when Broner said it, I'm sorry, I said it, yes, I think it's bullshit. I think this is money related. He didn't pull out of the Figueroa fight due to mental illness. He pulled out because it wasn't worth his time. That's what I believe, okay? And what is he saying now? Oh, yeah, they want y'all to fight this guy for this money. Yeah, because it was about money. It wasn't about mental health. So first and foremost, even though mental health is at the forefront of a lot of conversations right now, how many of these instances are actually due to mental health issues? And what percentage of people talking about them have genuine mental health problems? Because it sounds like you're talking about an anxiety attack, which doesn't necessarily address pathology. Or what are you on?
And you're right, and we're both critical of if you're using that as an excuse. I need to see that you're being the same thing with Jamal putting out his doctor's note. Who is your therapist? Who's your psychologist? What have they concluded? What type of behavioral tests have you done?
What diagnosis? Because when you got you got a kid in Ryan, right? You know, at that age, guys that age live and die off of bullshit. They live like we were all that age where you're very, your hormones and all your crazy shit, all the cool shit. And it's like, bro, what you got going on, bro? Because you seem very comfortable being on camera. What is going on? Have you talked to a psychiatrist or a psychologist of some kind? Do you have a diagnosis of some kind? Because you're just throwing mental health out there, but to signify what? To signify what?
And here's the thing with both Ryan and Tio. They might have the issues, but they're not going to seek the help because the help's going to tell them, look, Your family is the reason you have anxiety and insecurities because you're taking care of them. So until you correct that, they don't want to correct the behavior, Jules. They want to, you notice, they want to have the personality of being mentally ill.
They want the crutch, Drew. They
It's a
want
crutch.
people to feel
It's a
bad for
it's
them.
a personality trait now instead of fixing the problem.
Because it's easier to sit there and say, well, I didn't do this because of my mental health. So I always have that crutch to lean on. And what I see is what's consistent with this generation, which is why Dana White, let me address this. Yeah, we heard about it, bro, and he's probably going to go to jail because it's on camera. There's nothing that can be done for him. It's
Well,
on camera.
she hit him first.
Yeah,
it don't matter.
they'll
bro.
probably both go and get in trouble.
Bro, but y'all know it. Y'all are men. Y'all know if she slapped me in my face, that's not the green light to give her a right cross. You know that. You know that's not how it works.
But they said he slapped her. They didn't say he punched her.
Yo, bro, that'd be a knee-jerk reaction sometimes, though. But you can't do
Hey,
that.
when you said they said they were drunk.
You go out there in that big world. In the next joint that do some shit to go ahead right across there, and you see
Now, what you were saying, Jules. Now, I want you to play psychiatrist. I want you to play psychiatrist, Jules. I'm Teofimo Lopez. Dr. Jules, my family's stressing me out. I have anxiety. I'm scared to perform in boxing. My profession is my life, my wife, my kids. What do I need to do?
I'll kill your pops.
But no, seriously, and because the therapy will bring a whole more set of issues. Well, what I'm saying is, like Jules is right. They don't want to do the work because it's going to require more issues and tough decisions.
Shout out to Rachel and Nonito. Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Rachel Nonito.
Happy New Year, Rachel Nonito.
And I'm with Drew on this because, like I said, look, I've said this before, but in a different context, that I'm not big on complaining, for example. I'm more big on solutions when we're talking about day-to-day stuff, that a lot of people don't like their job, but they don't try to change their job. A lot of people don't like where they live, but they don't do what they have to do to move. There are people out there, many of us know them, that are more comfortable complaining about a situation because they don't want to do the work to fix it. So when you talk about a broad spectrum statement like mental health, well, what aspect of it? What? Like, just because you feel like you're under pressure, that doesn't mean there's actual pathology, a disease or something like that. Mental health is just broad spectrum. Like, okay, what are we talking about? Clinical depression? Manic? Are you manic? Like, what are you?
And the reason you could speak on this, Jules, you used to work with some of them kind of people.
Yeah, and that's why I think that they're misappropriating it, because there are people out there that have genuine mental illness. There are people that have schizophrenics, manic depressives, people that have suicidal thoughts. And I feel like it's popular now to talk about it, but they're talking about little things like, yes, there is a lot of stress associated with being a high-level athlete because you're performing in front of millions of people at a time, thousands of people in attendance, so there's going to be pressure. But that's an occupational hazard, buddy. That comes with the territory. And what it sounds like is you can't hack it. That's not a disease. It's that you can't hack it.
Hey, Jules,
I just want to hold on. I just want to bring it back to AJ real quick. I don't think he succumbed to any pressure in terms of performance. I just think he fought a guy who knows all the tools and found a second win. That's a guy who doesn't give up rounds like that. When he's losing.
Shout out to I don't know if that's the real Virgil Ortiz, but appreciate that. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's one of those it's one of those things. It's one of those things that I'm like, look, I know that some percentage of these individuals are not actually talking about mental illness, that there are mentally ill people out there that have genuine issues. What I see being described are occupational hazards more than mental illness. Like, yes, there is a lot of pressure associated with high-level sports, but that's not an illness. That's an occupational hazard. It comes with the job.
Like a blood clot on the brain, unfortunately, if you take a horrible beating. That's an occupational hazard. It is what it is.
It's like if you're a soldier, getting shot is not a disease. It's an occupational hazard. Getting shot.
I don't think AJ uh, looks in that way. Let me say this. For me, the problem that AJ has is he doesn't know who he is anymore as a boxer. Because AJ before the Andy Ruiz fight, probably he thought, okay, I am the best boxer in the world, comparable to Canelo, really.
Mm-hmm.
And this fat ass motherfucker is not gonna beat me. No, I'm gonna knock him out. And Wilder knocking on bombs, it doesn't matter because I'm gonna deliver. I'm gonna defend my belt against this guy, and I'm gonna win by KO. And if he come to the realization that okay, that was the wrong plan for Andy Ruiz. So he thought, okay, maybe I'm not the knockout puncher that I thought I was. Maybe I'm not the one punch hitter quitter, but maybe I can box now. I can box and I can win every fight behind my boxing. I can knock out some people, but I can box. But what happened? It came face to face to Alexander Usyk and realized that, damn, I cannot box with this guy, really, because and Anthony Joshua said himself, he thought in the middle of the rounds, it was looking like Muhammad Ali was winning the fight. After reviewing the footage, he realized, no, I lost that fight. So he thought, okay, I cannot box with this guy. Maybe I can came back to be the puncher, the killer that I was. So I went there and tried to knock Usyk out, and that didn't work neither. So that's the problem with that Anthony Joshua now, because you're not the best boxer in the world, and not. I don't think you're even in the top 10. You're a big heavyweight. You have a great punch. You have fundamentals. Whatever. You are not one of the best boxers in the world, pound for pound, and your skills alone they cannot save you. You have to use your side.
Also, but see, this is no. Wait. Let me champ this shit. See, this is where I disagree with a lot of people, and this is where I think he's lost. You lost to Ruiz. I could see how that affected you, and I could see where you might have shame in that. But you should have settled that in your own mind after you beat him. And if you didn't, because you lost to Usyk, for example, you shouldn't be ashamed you lost to a fighter like that. You really shouldn't be. And I think that what really happens is fighters drink their own Kool-Aid the way that people sometimes drink their own Kool-Aid. And when they lose, they don't know what it really looks like. I don't think he knows what it really looks like from the outside. In his mind, it's worse than it really is. You lost to Usyk. No big deal. That's a great fighter. No big deal. No big deal. It's not that big a deal. Honestly, it really isn't. But if it's eating at you, it's because of what you thought leading up to that fight. You can beat Valine. You can beat Hergovic. You can beat Makhmudov. Yes, you can beat these people, bro. You really can. But if you think that, oh, I'm no good, you can't win fights or you can't do things when in your own mind you're telling yourself, I don't think I can do them. Because I lost.
And with AJ, I talked to somebody. I talked to someone that was in the camp.
The Donair's got a question for you.
Yeah, I see it. The question is, do you think boxers are using mental health as a way to say, I'm scared without saying I'm scared? Let me answer the question. I absolutely do, because mental, anxiety, while it is psychological, it is mental. Anxiety is not necessarily a disease, and having anxiety or being nervous, that's not necessarily a disease unto itself. The thing about this sport is it's a very dangerous sport, and at the highest levels of it, when you're fighting on television in front of millions of people and thousands in attendance, there's going to be pressure. It's an occupational hazard, and what I suspect is that guys who can't hack it, they like to pretend they have a mental illness. That's not a mental illness. Schizophrenia is a mental illness. Multiple personality disorder is a mental illness. Bipolar, yeah, it's a mental illness. It's not a huge one, but it is an illness. Being manic is an illness. What these guys are describing, like Ryan and shit like that, bro, what you talking about is being scared.
Yeah,
That's what
Ryan's a perfect example of that.
Speaking of Ryan Garcia, let me ask you this, Jules. I've read in an article that he said he was having suicidal thoughts. Do you think a fighter should be going in there in the ring with those kind of thoughts?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I said it before. But this is the thing. This is the other thing. You know, a chemical imbalance is something that, you know, you can go to a doctor and get diagnosed if you are, you know, you have some kind of a chemical imbalance, or if you're depressed and you have suicidal thoughts, they give you prescriptions for things like that. So when I hear these things, my automatic question, without being cynical, it's just it's a regular follow-up question. Are you seeing anyone? Do you have a sports doctor or a psychiatrist that you're going to? Do you take medication? Because if you do, you probably shouldn't let people punch you in the head.
Exactly, and that goes to my
Agreed.
point with the stuff that the stuff they're saying, Jules. Every human being that's functional has experienced anxiety before, whether you were a child or something. Those are things that are not foreign to the human experience. It's stuff like manic depressant, schizophrenia, extreme OCD.
Yes,
that's
OCD. That's true.
It's stuff that's quantified and you're tested, and okay, you got these issues. You're imbalanced. Right. These dudes are just, it's anxiety, normal human anxiety.
I think, you know what I think? The fear that they feel, right? Let me say this. The fear that Ryan Garcia might feel, and when I look at him outside looking in, is maybe you don't feel that your level of talent is on par with your marquee value. You know it. You know it. That's why you don't want to fight Devin. You know it. You know that you're worth more than perhaps you should be. And your level of talent is not on par with your marquee value. So you're stepping on eggshells all the time, and that makes you nervous. That's where the anxiety comes from. But if you were honest with yourself, and there's something I heard that makes a lot of sense, all right? And it's like, yo, dog, you worried about shit that's not real. If you feel like you're not good enough underneath it all, then work on your craft. It's that simple. Work on your craft.
It goes to, Jules, it goes to a larger point of Ryan and his generation. The need for validation and confirmation bias from influencers. It's permeating into just a regular teenage culture.
But also
they're in their echo chamber of everybody that agrees with them, and if you don't, you're a hater. That they got to live up to that bubble they put themselves in.
But also this, Drew, it's not normal or it's not commonplace for a fighter who is where Ryan is to be worth as much as Ryan is worth. The kid is worth some money. He is. He's getting endorsements. He's got sponsorships. He's worth some money. And the average boxer in his position at that stage in their career, when they haven't even fought for a full title yet, they don't have all that. So that creates added pressure for him that, oh shit, I got something to lose when I'm supposed to be developing as a fighter. That's what he's supposed to be doing right now more than anything else, developing as a fighter. But because you're worth so much money and you got millions of people on Instagram and you got endorsements, it creates pressure, a lot more pressure than another kid who's maybe 20-0. He doesn't have sponsorships. He's not worth millions of dollars, but you know what he is? He's hungry. He's very, very fucking hungry.
Jules, you have to understand this. Dudes of his age bracket, Devin Haney's an undisputed champion of the world at his weight class. Like people like Tank, you can say he's within his age bracket, but he's a little older. Won world titles already at 130. Like now he's really looking at it like, yo, am I really like that? Because let's keep it a buck. People my age group have the mental fortitude and the craft to go with it, and they're doing big things. You feel me?
No, I don't disagree. Let me read this. They can't take it because their self-worth is based on external affirmation. So when the fans turn on them, they don't know what to do. That's got to be jarring, especially for a kid like Teofimo, because that's exactly what happened to him. And he's a very young man when he's still highly susceptible to suggestion. Everything that happened to him, it was a complete 180. He went from the man that defeated the great Lomachenko to, hey, this kid sucks. He just lost to George.
I'll give you another example, Jules. Remember my back and forth that the other day with Stephen Fulton, where he's like, you don't know what you're talking about, blah blah. I'm like, bro, it's all documented right there. Your fucking fight was 110. You got beat out by Pawn Stars and Paw Patrol, bro. You're not making M's.
You have to prove like that, bro.
Remember, you saw the meme I sent you with him and Stefan Espinosa on the Pawn Stars,
bro.
Pawn
You had
Stars
to do
and
that,
Paw
though,
Patrol?
bro. I know, but like the way he's talking like he the man, and like, oh, you guys don't know what's going on with Inoue, blah blah blah. Like, bro, we know what's going on.
But see, this is another thing, and this is what I'll say about myself, right? I can only say this about myself. I don't try to have those arguments. I relegate whatever I think mostly to my channel so that you don't have, I'm not violating by speaking my mind. You see what I mean? And I would feel like I was violating if I told you, fam, don't nobody be watching you, fam.
Well, hey, did you guys see that tweet that Ryan Garcia?
If you tell the truth.
Did you guys see that tweet that Ryan Garcia put out talking about, oh, well, I'm coming for everything? I tweeted back to him and said, dude, you ain't even fought any elite fighters yet. You should at least do that before you say such things.
Bro, this is what I'm trying to say here, real quick. We were talking about this like 2021, last year. Bro, you have fans that are fucking sucking you off, man. You have all these endorsement deals, man. And yet you're talking all this shit. Like you've already made it, and yet all of a sudden you don't want to move like a fighter that who's a man, like who's taking on all comers. So why the fuck are you talking all this shit and at the same time try to be a mental health advocate? It doesn't make any sense.
Because he talking cash shit. And it's like, bro, you can't today say I got mental health peeves, and then tomorrow you talking cash shit. It's one or the other, my guy. Like, really though, it's one or the other.
I was starting really. I'm like really.
Real quick,
like
they're acting like they really like got mental health issues like Rolly. They not Rolly.
Oh.
Do the voice, Jules.
No, but seriously, I'm getting. Oh man. I'm getting really cynical about this though, Jules, because like, yo, fam, you not like fighters before went through worse shit.
Nah, but the thing, this is what I'm gonna say. It's kind of like, in other words, if you a soldier, right? An occupational hazard is you might get fucking shot. It's not a disease. It's that you might get fucking shot. That's a part of your job. You might get shot. If you do what I used to do, you sit on triage patients, mental patients, right? Well, you might have to restrain one of them. You might get in a fight with them. That's not that's not a mental illness. It's an occupational hazard.
Right.
Well, when you're a high-level athlete, handling pressure and being under pressure, that's not a mental illness. That's an occupational hazard. It's part of your job. Yeah. It's what you got to do.
Exactly.
Did you see? Hold on, real quick. Did you see that tweet from Enzo Macronelli about? He showed a video about some guy working the electricity, like the towers, and he was way up high, like mad high.
Yeah, I know.
And he said, like, yo,
and everything, right? Yeah.
Bruh, he said, like, yo, and I thought I was crazy for taking punches to the face.
Let me ask you guys something. Look at Vinny Paz. He broke his neck and came back to the sport. You don't think he was under pressure that whole time?
Exactly.
He came back from a broken freaking neck.
Is Capricorn, by the way.
Vinny Paz wasn't gonna take a break.
He brought him up.
Yeah, the principle of boxing. I get it.
Hey, Vinny Paz was
me
not
or
going to take
Rolly sounds
Carey broken nail break and go to the beach, man. He went through it.
Essentially, what I'm communicating is, it sounds to me like there's guys that don't want to do their job. That's what I hear when I constantly see the mental health angle brought up. That I do believe that some people genuinely have issues, but what I'm seeing described is not an illness. It's an occupational hazard that, unfortunately for you, given your profession, you have to be able to deal with that, bro. That's a part of your job.
Hey, Jules, I'm going to hop off, but I wanted to tell you real quick. happy Capricorn season. I don't know when your birthday is, but happy early birthday.
Thank you. I am a Capricorn. I am better and more important than all the Arieses. All the Arieses.
Stop it.
Even the cute ones with nice asses like my wife.
I know Jules did the voice right now, but is it me or Rolly sounds like Off from the Goonies?
Man!
Hey,
there you go! Did y'all hear my
Rocky
wife curse
Road.
me out and kick me?
Shout out to all the Aries out there. Shout out to all the Aries in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, and all I'm saying is that to basically address the Donaire's question, I feel like basically what these guys are complaining about are aspects of their job. You see what I mean? That if you're a soldier, you might get shot. If you're a cop, you might get shot. And if you're a boxer, if you're a pugilist, well, yeah, you're going to be under scrutiny. You're going to be under pressure. But it's an occupational hazard. And in keeping with what we see from this generation as a whole, not exclusive to boxing, but just as a whole, there seem to be a lot of people that want everyone to feel sorry for them instead of working through their issues to get the fucking job done.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that literally died building the buildings in New York on the scaffolds when the city was first established and skyscrapers were going up. Men died working their jobs, trying to feed their families. Now, in this generation, a lot of kids have the good fortune that the working conditions are a lot better now than they were before, but they're complaining more than they were before.
You know what I wonder? Who was the first guy to die from getting roadhead while driving?
Me too, better.
I'm sure.
And what year do you think that really happened, Jules? Say like the 40s, the 30s, 40s?
Had to be, bro.
Because that's when cars came out.
When I'm talking, the cars had to be going pretty faster than like them old fucking cranked up Fords.
Think about it, bro.
Let me read this. Let me read this.
Like,
let me read this. Shout out to the Donaires because this is a very valid point. Wait, Adrian Broner pulled out of a fight, quoting mental illness, then blamed Al Heyman for not giving him a fight. That happened, ladies and germs. That happened.
He was bullshitting, bro.
I said he was bullshit. I said that, bro. It ain't no mental health illness shit. This is about money. Eddie Hearn had just offered him $2.5 million to fight Conor Ben, right? And what you then have to ask yourself is, do you think Showtime was going to give him that same amount of money for Omar Figueroa?
no.
Hell no.
It was a money thing, bro. It was always a money thing. It wasn't about mental. It had nothing to do with that, bro. That's the easiest way to get out of doing your homework. That's the dog ate my homework in boxing. The dog ate my homework. My fault. I got mental something. Are you on any kind of medication for your mental something? No, then what are we talking about, bro? Are you seeing a psychiatrist? Are you seeing a psychologist? Are you on any medications?
And literally everybody goes through stuff, man, to be honest with you. I know it's hard as a fighter, but everybody goes through stuff. Realistically, everybody should be getting a little bit of therapy. Or just deal with your problems like a man. I don't want to be toxic. But me personally, I just deal with my problems. I just face them head on and I deal with them. And I'm 20.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm them, I would prefer to handle my problems privately and not talk about it because that just opens me up to fucking criticism.
I don't even tell nobody about my problems. I just deal with it.
I mean, because you're a man. That's why.
Yeah.
Because you're a man.
Be a man.
And you know, it sounds like this, like when it's conversations like this, like you really need a close-knit support group.
But also, this the other thing. Look, they had a thing about beauty standards, right? With just pearly things. I love that channel because they have real conversations on that channel, right? And you had all these different joints that are all built in different ways, right? And they're all mad about the beauty standards, but it's because you don't want to meet them. That's your problem. At its base, that's your real problem. You want people to look at you the way they look at somebody else that is doing something that you're not doing. They're going to the gym.
Early ain't thorough, bro.
They want to be regarded.
I got some.
You know, if I want to look like, for example, if I want to be treated the way that, you know, some Adonis, some old swole guy, right? if as guys, if that's what we want, we got to work towards that. If we want to get over something, we got to do something about it. Whereas what this generation seems to preach so much about is, well, I shouldn't have to do nothing, and you should feel sorry for me anyway.
Yo, bro,
here.
yo, bro, Juice,
They want to be treated as high value when they're not
you,
high
bro?
value.
Like, yo, you even making that a joke, man. That doesn't even sound logical. Like, niggas don't even want to work for something. Yo, bro,
but that's what's going on, fam.
Yeah, it is.
That's crazy, man.
It was, listen, you could go in my history. It's on there. You got a bunch of different joints. They all look different. They're all built different, right? Some are big, some are small. Only one was realistic, just so happens to be the content creator I'm subscribed to, and that's just Pearly Things, right? And she said, well, I just think that some people are pretty and some people are not that pretty. And that's literally what it is. Like, unfortunately, but that is the way it is. That no, I'm not going to get treated the way Brad Pitt get treated because I'm not Brad Pitt. The fuck? Obviously. You know what I'm saying? And it was a bunch of joints.
Let's keep it a buck. If you look better than Brad Pitt and you don't got no Brad, they're still gonna try to play you. So
yeah, it's like it was just joints though. You know, it was just females, and you got different females in there. They all got their different stuff going on. And what I took away from it is like, fam, what you want is for people to look at you as if you're the same as somebody that's doing something, because you don't want to have to go to the gym. You don't think you should have to do that. Oh, being skinny is not. It's like, fam, then don't expect people to look at you like that then, because they're not going to. What you're really doing is complaining instead of working. If you want people to look at you as this special fucking flower, you're this fucking amazing, I can do something about it instead of complaining, because complaining ain't doing shit. People still look at you the same as you don't want them to, but they still look at you the same, and you're not doing nothing about it.
Yo, I'm on Facebook. Random thing time back to boxing.
But they do if they're sitting around complaining about it. You can't say, wait a minute. You can't say, oh, they shouldn't care what people think about them. The problem is they do care. They do care, and they want to alter what people are allowed to think. Like, people are allowed to think. People don't have to like you. I'm sorry, but no, they don't. And they don't have to find you attractive. I'm sorry. Are they not allowed to have preferences?
Jules, a lot of these joints want to be treated as high value when they're not.
I'm a high value, goddammit. Liam Rockwell says, Rachel. Ooh, Liam, I'm not doing that. Liam, I'm not doing that. If you want to argue, Liam, you argue with them. I'm not arguing. Rachel says, shoot, we recently have retold when Rachel drove me to the courthouse because I threatened her. Oh, yo, it's getting spicy in the comments, y'all.
Shoot them a link.
It's no facts. Hey, man. It's getting wild out here.
Shoot them a link.
Hold on, man. Hold on. I need a cigarette. Shit. all I'm saying.
I thought we were stopping that this 2023.
No, we're not stopping none.
Now listen. Now let me say this. Now, in all honesty, the problem that I see is that it's not that these people actually have issues. Their issue is they want to alter people's perception of them to get them to treat them nicer without doing the work. In the case of Ryan Garcia, oh well, you don't want people. What I take away from him is you don't like the pressure you're under. Okay, stop boxing then, because there's going to be pressure. You could win a title tomorrow, and you know you're still going to be under pressure, right? There's always going to be pressure, and you need to be able to deal with it because that's boxing, that's sports, and that's life.
Good God,
I definitely agree about the joint part, but I kind of disagree about the boxing part. Because I think when you really decompartmentalize it, and this is the contrary opinion on the panel, when you really decompartmentalize it, like I agree mostly about Ryan, but I think when you look at the heights of the sports, like the best of the best guys, everywhere throughout boxing history, like they all had terrible issues. Like so many fighters were alcoholics. They had problems with their spouses. They were drug users. A lot of fighters ended up killing themselves. Roy Jones, his infamous story with his father, like, I actually do think there is a thread of like mental health issues when it comes to guys at the top of their sport. But I mean, Ryan is like he only fights mediocre fighters, and like he's not really aspiring to much. He even said himself he doesn't care about the belt. So I
Julio,
don't extend that to him.
Wait. But this is where we disagree, Julio. This is where we disagree. You're describing people that had actual issues. You see what I mean? When Broner said that he pulled out of the Figueroa fight, citing mental illness, no, I didn't believe that. I believed it was a money issue. And I feel
okay, yeah, that I agree. Yeah, I agree with the AB, but I think with AJ, I do think that guy genuinely has mental health issues.
I look, I won't disagree with that because I do think there's an underlying issue there. But where do you draw the line between, you know, stability of the mind and actual pathology? Because they're not the same thing. You know, being chemically imbalanced is a real thing. Manic depressive, schizophrenic, multiple personality. These are all things that can be diagnosed. So at what point does anxiety, which it sounds like we're describing, at what point does anxiety become, okay, well, this is a genuine issue? You have anxiety that's associated with the job you do. It comes with the job you do.
I agree, but you also consider their job. I mean, they're suffering public. They risk suffering public humiliation at a scale that I don't think anyone here can really fathom.
I do agree with that. I do agree.
So I do think about that, and also materially as well. Like, okay, if AJ loses his next fight, he's fucking up the bag at that point. Like that can actually start like affect him materially, like his financial standpoint. Which, you know, I think Mike Tyson is evidence of this. Like the guy lost everything at one point, and it wasn't until he fixed his underlying mental health issues.
But can we also say this, Julio? I do agree with you on this point. They can suffer a humiliation that the common man doesn't know, but the common man also has to deal with pressures in his own life, and the common man cannot hope to survive in this regular world that we live in of 9 to 5s, the rat race, bosses that don't give a fuck about you, companies that don't give a fuck about you, bill collectors that don't give a fuck about you. Everybody's under pressure, you know.
Absolutely. And this is why I was like so like pissed off, and I was so like irked when Danny Garcia came out with his bullshit at the end of that fight. Cause like, and then like months later, he gets into it with you and he reveals that like he's using boxers' names to elevate his profile. And it's just like, how serious about this are you then?
Yeah,
to even have that issue in the first place.
And that's where for me I draw a line almost, because are we to say that we're not dealing with pressures in our day-to-day lives, but we don't, as common individuals, because we're all blue collar guys here for the most part, we are, and it's like saying, oh well, Ryan is complaining about mental health issues, but you have more means than we do, and we have things that we have to deal with, and you know what? No, we don't get to throw a pity party. Nobody gives a
fuck. The funny thing is, these fighters are acting like they got Johnny Tapia issues.
Yeah, like look at, what's your biggest issue, Ryan? That enough people didn't watch your TikTok dance? The fuck is your the fuck?
Yo, when did all this mental health start? Like, cause I remember 10, 20 years ago, this shit wasn't happening.
Well, you know what started that conversation was the proliferation of this. This is what really started this as a conversation.
Fighters weren't talking about this.
No. I'll tell you what started as a conversation piece in this country, because it really mostly is in this country. What started it are the people that actually have issues, that run around shooting up schools, killing people, attacking people in the street. That's what started it. Now, that is a separate conversation, because those are disillusioned men, which are very dangerous. But that's what they are. They're disillusioned, disenfranchised, sometimes diseased men. That is a very different conversation than what we're having. What we're talking about is the misappropriation of that illness and how it is multi-purposed as a get-out-of-jail-free card. Dog ate my homework. Like, bruh,
and
yes,
I think
your
that was
job.
a response to the disillusioned men saying that, I go through a lot of shit too. Like, I go through a lot of shit. I lost my wife. I lost all these other things that don't really have to deal with mental health. But hey, that was their way of saying, hey, just because I go through something, I don't want to shoot up schools or kill people. But it's now metastasized and made its way into regular people.
Brother, because that was the great word you used. We have a extended vocabulary on this panel.
Let me read the super chat. Will says Emil Griffith was a gay boxer who killed a man in the ring, but would go on to surpass Ali in championship fights and became an ATG. Everybody has issues, and that's the point that I'm making. Is not that people don't have issues. The point that I'm making is that I think people are faking it. They're calling it in. They don't want to deal with certain aspects of their job, and they multi-purpose this prevalent issue in America as a get-out-of-jail-free card. That's what I think. When Broner pulled out on Figueroa, I said it then. I don't think it's a mental health thing. I think it's a money thing. With Ryan, I think it's a lack of dedication. I've always thought that. Canelo, the one that let the cat out the bag. They're like, yo, he don't be, you know what I mean? He don't be working hard enough. You feel me?
And for some reason,
I was real quick. I just wanted to say, I agree with your what you kind of summarized of how this mental health thing happened. Like I think it was like all those like shootings at the time, and then like a bunch of celebrities were going through it. Like I think Tiger Woods and like Britney Spears, that long period between those two incidents, just through pure cultural osmosis, all that shit is now in like sports and TV and art and everything else.
Because they're taking a real issue, which is, I do believe it's a real issue, and that's a very different conversation than the one that
they're commodifying that issue.
Yeah, because look, in a nutshell, a lot of guys and a lot of it's a deep conversation to have. Why do these guys resort to this? There's a lot of reasons that's happening, but that's what brought mental illness essentially to the forefront of the conversation, that these guys are mentally ill and look at what they're doing, and now all of a sudden everybody claims that they're mentally ill too, when really, look, what you're dealing with is not what that person is dealing with. That person has a genuine issue that needs attention. Look at what they've resorted to, whereas what you're describing is an occupational hazard. That's what you're describing. This is a part of your job. It is. And if you don't want to deal with it anymore, wait a minute. If you don't want to deal with it anymore, that's fine. But as long as you're boxing in front of people, you are going to be scrutinized. Part of the job.
Yeah, and then if you blur the lines between like real like mental illness and then like a mental health concern, like you end up hurting people who actually need help, like by diluting those issues.
Which is the same as the other issue that we often talk about: tribalism, bigotry, prejudice. If you misuse this, because it's a real issue, I talk about it all the time. Look at what they did to Abner Louima. Look at what they did to Abdou Diallo in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. They shot that man so much it was bullet holes in his feet after he fell. That's how you know they was trying to kill that man, and he didn't do nothing. But when you see people take a real issue and misappropriate it for personal gain, monetization, clickbait, you dilute the issue and you desensitize people to it. Because you saying that if Wilder got his ass kicked and I laugh at him, oh, you ABC, bro, he got his ass. I'm laughing because he did that to himself.
Dante's Boxing Nation.
It's spicy in the chat, bro.
Over what?
They talk
Liam is harassing Nonito. I don't like.
Yeah, Liam doesn't want to let up.
Yeah, they going at it, and I'm not going to fan that flame. I'm not fanning.
But mind you, if
ban
Nonito
that
stepped
guy
to Liam in real life, Nonito's a good guy. Nonito's a really. It seems like a God-fearing man, but if Nonito hit him with a left hook, he a bad guy, right? What the fuck is this corny, dude? Liam, go get some pussy, dude. What's wrong with you?
Also, yeah, I also get why you hate Tyson Fury now. Like after you say that.
Yeah, because like I said, I feel that he's a con man, and while he may have bipolar disorder, I don't put it past him. I don't put that past him. I also feel that you're misappropriating a real issue, which means you don't actually care about that issue if you misuse it. You don't actually care about, for example, mental illness when you use that as a get-out-of-jail-free card. How could you? You're misappropriating the issue. And when you throw around, what I often have to deal with it, because you say this, A, B, C, and D. Bro, you're not an activist or freedom fighter of any kind by posting false flags, all right? If you really cared about that kind of stuff, you wouldn't limit it to a boxing conversation, first and foremost. This is not the battlefield for what you're describing. You just want to make people, you want to lay a guilt trip that you think is going to force people to agree with you or align with your worldview. When you want to be a victim, all right? In a nutshell, you want to be.
It's cynical. It's a cynical rebranding thing, especially if you knew the Tyson Fury before that. And now he's like making like he goes on tour now talking about this stuff, making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Where it's like, man, if you do have a mental health issue, you're like a sociopath.
He's talking about mental health issues while shit talking Anthony Joshua. Look, I'm sorry to interrupt your mental health talk, and I know you guys talk about boxing as occupational hazard, but like real quick, I just found out that tonight's NFL game between the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals have been suspended, right? After a Bills player collapsed on the field. So that's the first for everything, bro.
Yeah, it got suspended, bro, because he got hit in the chest and he got up and dude just collapsed, bro.
Let me say, Rachel, Nonito, I'm gonna post the link for y'all, Liam. If you want to join them, I don't know why you doing this, Liam. Yeah, I mean, like I don't know, bro. But
bro, when you post that link, you really bring the bitch out of people when you post that link because they hate to fucking click on that shit.
They never
click on it. If you want to talk to them, and they want to talk to you, I'm gonna record it. And I am gonna make money. You see, I'm not a liar.
You're shameless.
I don't lie. I'm not into lying. Is something that I very much have always detested as long as I've been alive. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna make money.
I really think Fury's mental illness was drug induced.
Well, look that he could have bipolar disorder. I don't put it past him. I don't. But that still doesn't mean that he's not misappropriating an issue. I believe that he is. Like, I firmly believe, yes, that's what that man is doing. He's taking a real issue that a lot of men suffer. Look, most of the mental illness stuff that goes on in the real world, forget these celebrities and their problems. In the real world, that's mostly men that are going through that shit.
Working class men, for real.
Working class men. Like, before you tell me that a guy with $1 million, or 2, 3, 4, 5 million, or 10 million, or 50 million in the bank. Oh, you went down in the dumps? Imagine being a blue collar man that the government don't care about, the state don't give a fuck about, the women don't give a fuck about him, the men don't give a fuck about him, and they're going through it. All right? So don't expect me to feel more sorry for you than him. He's got it harder than you do. You can afford a psychiatrist. He can't.
Where Liam? Oh, Rachel got it.
Liam says he can't jump on because he's at work.
Well, then go fucking go work.
I'm at work.
How about you go work? How about you go work? Because your fingers are typing hella fast. You have no smoke for anyone else on this panel, and just because I gave my opinion, you're trying to silence me about my opinion. My opinion is my opinion, and yet you're not smoking anyone else that's given their opinion on this panel. So shut up, sit down, or come back up here.
Talk that shit.
Everyone, Rachel Donaire has entered the chat.
Oh yeah.
Hi, Rachel. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
And you know, but before the first round starts, you know, we're gonna have an interlude before the first round starts, and that's my thing with the mental health thing. That I feel that look, there's people. They got to get up and go to work in spite of their issues because neither the government, the state, or the tax collectors, or the bill, nobody cares about these people, right? And they still have to get up and try to function. So when I see a lot of celebrities talk about it, I'm like, look, you have an avenue that the average Joe Blow does not have, because at least you can seek help. The average guy cannot afford a psychiatrist or a psychologist. They got to try to make it work and work through those issues as best as they can. So when I see Ryan, who has $1 million endorsements and he has sponsors, I'm like, bro, are you actually seeing a psychiatrist? Because if you really have issues, okay, I'm with you. But go see a psychiatrist then. Just saying mental health, I don't know what that means. I used to sit on mental patients. That's what I used to do. And I'm like, it's real people out there that got real issues. I don't know if you're one of them, you know, but if you are, I'm going to assume you're seeing a psychiatrist or something, right? Are you on any medications? Because people with real mental issues and real mental illness, they are on medications. Are you? Or are you misappropriating an issue because that's the trendy thing to do? That's what I see.
That's a good question. If they're actually got diagnosed or if this is a self-diagnosis. I never even asked that question. For me, I was just like, so we're not gonna see the fight, which is kind of selfish of me, but it is what it is. Like, I don't, we asked like Charlo to show us, like his medical reports. If you're diagnosed, there would be medical reports on it
Actually,
and
Jules,
treatment, right?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, country.
Actually, Jules, they actually have counseling with sliding scale nowadays. So if they can't get a psychiatrist, they can at least get counseling and get somebody to talk to.
But
that's affordable.
But let's say this. Look, it's a lot like what happened with Broner, and I said it when it happened.
Yes, fuck all that. Where's Liam? Liam,
hold up.
bro.
Hold up, fam. Like I said, with Broner, you pulled out of a fight, which would be tantamount to me calling out from work. Well, if I called out from work, my superior at most jobs, they'd ask you to bring in documentation of some kind to show why you called out from work, that you actually have a reason, that, maybe you had a fever or whatever, you had something going on. And you have to produce documentation that shows, okay, I wasn't just fucking off, I actually was sick. Well, it shouldn't be any different with people that claim they have mental health issues or mental illness. What are you doing about it? Because you're saying that you can't do your job because of mental illness. Okay, so do you see a doctor when it comes to this stuff? You have a psychiatrist, a therapist, something? Because, you get paid in the millions, bro. Now, there's guys, they're making maybe $30,000 a year to $40,000. They're not making $100,000 because at $100,000 you can probably afford a psychiatrist. You got Joe Blows with regular jobs, $30,000, maybe $25,000 a year. They ain't got the money for psychiatrists. They're under the same scrutiny that you are from their superiors. So I don't really like the idea that all a guy has to say these days is all mental illness. What mental illness?
And if it's that bad, like, for your own sake, you should retire, because like you could actually end up getting fucked up permanently if you step in the ring like that.
All right, Rachel, I'm going to read you what he said. He said, I'm not trying to silence you. Everyone else isn't a boxing insider, and their words carry a little weight. Yours does, Rachel. Be better and champion young females rather than gossip about them. Ooh, oh my goodness. Rachel, your response.
It's not gossip. That's what I saw. Nonito already told you in the chat that I asked, I was like, is that Hearn's wife, girlfriend, whatever? And he was like, no. He was like, that's Sky. So that tells you right there that my perception was that you want me to not say anything because of what? Because I'm a boxing insider. It's right in front of my face. There's no other different than anybody else seeing it in front of their face.
Oh, this is about that's now I know why.
That's
Liam,
what this
for
is
those that don't know, Liam, Sky's Australian, Liam's Australian. I see what's going on here. Look, man, if Eddie's fucking Sky, he's not fucking Sky. You know why I chose not? This is why I chose not to talk about it, because if I do that, then I'm gonna end up spreading it, and then more people are gonna keep talking about it. If Eddie and Scott got something going on, that's between them. They adults. Get it on. You know what I mean? That's get it on. She's pretty girl. He's nice guy. He's got nice clothes. He's
like Billy Paul said in the 70s. Me and Mrs. Jones got a thing going on, and we go to the
Yep.
Yeah, nobody needs to know, and we gonna leave it there. But Liam, you can't get that butt hurt off of that, because if she saw something with her own two eyes, she's allowed to at least say that much. That I saw something, I was there, and it looked a certain way to me. Like, it's a free country, bro.
Yeah, but how does that equate to gossip, though? That's not gossip.
That's not even gossip, because it's out there already. We didn't start it. It's out there.
That's what she saw.
And I'm gonna tell you the truth, Liam. I heard about it months ago, bro. And I'll let you in on a hint. It wasn't Rachel that told me. It wasn't Nonito that told me. I heard it from somebody else entirely.
I know who you heard it from.
You don't know who I heard it from, bro.
Bro, I'll put it in the private chat, bro.
I'm CIA, bro. I'm trying to tell you. You don't understand.
I think
I put it in the private chat,
bro.
All right, I'm about to go to the private chat to see who he put in there, and let me just see. Nah, it wasn't her. It wasn't her. I'm gonna tell you that it wasn't that one. It wasn't her. And somebody told me months ago, and they described the same things that they presented it to me the same way that Rachel just said that she was there, she saw something, and because they weren't necessarily familiar with the fighter, they just got a different impression based on the body language and the way that they were talking. That and yeah, and that's it, bro. Like that's not really spreading gossip neither. That's just like, yo, I thought that was his girlfriend because that's the way they was talking. I thought that was his girlfriend. So. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call that spreading gossip, bro. I wouldn't.
The football player DeMar Hamlin is in critical condition right now, currently.
What
that
happened?
Shit was neurological. Not because he got a football helmet hit to the head, man. And he
no. He
like...
got hit in the chest. He got hit in the chest and he just fell down.
That's bad.
So, this is what Trisha Mackey said from Fox 19. She said, I am told DeMar Hamlin has been intubated and is currently listed in critical condition. I'm told DeMar Hamlin, this is from Joe Dannerman of Fox 19. I'm told DeMar Hamlin has a pulse, but is not breathing on his own. He is being transferred to UC. You know what UC is? What is that, Rachel? Is that
University of California of something? So what, Davis or I don't know where it was, San Jose?
University, probably.
He might have a collapsed lung. You think that he's not breathing?
But this was in Buffalo.
Oh, it's in Buffalo.
Yes.
Oh, that's
this was This was in Cincinnati, bro.
Oh, right.
Then University.
You know what it is? The jerseys. I thought they were wearing like.
Oh, that's bad.
But anyway.
It could be a collapse lung. Yeah.
Yeah, because
it has to be neurological because
they said
he got up, right? I saw the video. He got up and then he fell. He collapsed. Yeah, and it's the same thing
it could be a collapsed lung because if he has a pulse, his heart is beating. If he got up, I don't think it's neurological unless somehow he got a concussion, which isn't likely because it was a blow to the chest, right?
Somebody in the chat
it was a blow to the chest.
Tackle and collapse.
Probably has a collapsed lung. Probably.
Please.
I'm saying probably because of where he got hit and the fact he has a pulse. It's not his heart if he has a pulse, but he's not breathing on his own, so they probably got to put him on he's probably collapsed lung.
Yeah, that's what they were trying to do CPR on him to get him to breathe, right?
Yeah.
So with his collapsed lung, he's not breathing on his own.
Yeah, he won't be able to. He won't be able to if it's a collapsed lung.
Right.
But if it's a collapsed lung, I think if it's a collapsed lung, he should be okay. If it's a collapsed lung, he should be okay. If they can get him to the hospital in time, he should be okay. He should be.
He's born in 98, man. That bro, he younger than me, man. Please make it through. You have your whole life ahead of you. You made it to the NFL. You're living out your dream. Please, my friend. Please.
Well, 93 Octane says it could be steroid use, enlarged heart, but we don't know that it's a heart problem because he has a pulse. I don't know. If they're saying that he's not breathing on his own, I feel collapsed lung, but I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor.
It's just the reaction to the hit had me thinking that way. Because I saw Tua, he had a hit against Buffalo previously before he fought, played against Cincinnati, where he had that fencing thing when he was on the ground. You saw that shit, right? He was throwing a gang sign.
Can you read that for me? Because I'm not going to read that.
Let Eddie do the spreading.
Oh, come on.
Look, when I said Eddie needs to link up with Sky, I didn't mean that literally or go down under.
Yeah, you
meant Sky Sports.
Sky Sports.
Yeah.
Y'all motherfuckers need to just chill. Be like, I'm leaving that shit alone. I ain't touching that shit. I want motherfuckers.
Yeah, man. Prayers up for DeMar Hamlin, bro.
I think.
I'm just hoping it's a collapsed lung because if it is, he'll be okay if it's a collapsed lung.
Jules, you don't got it because Eddie already did, man.
I'm not in that shit, bro. But look, I think he'll be. I hope he'll be okay. I hope he'll be. Okay.
I hope, man. Like this, yeah. I don't like shit like this, man. Like it was really reminiscent on.
It doesn't sound like it could be a concussion though because he got hit in the chest. Not the head. He got hit in the chest.
DeMar Hamlin has a rise.
Yeah, and then the fucking delayed reaction too. That was fucking scary.
Yeah, that's the same one that Tua had. Like he got hit. He got a hit to the head, and then he was like wobbly and shit, and then he fell down.
But this guy got hit in the chest, bro. Right? He got hit in the chest.
Yeah. and
Yeah,
it's like
so
he
like
fell
even
down and
remember,
hit the back of his head, which is not good. Also,
remember when Jerry the King Lawler had the same thing happen to him when he was commentating Monday Night Raw one night? He tweeted like,
oh yeah, he was
"That's
having a heart attack on
yeah." He
live
was
air.
he tweeted that like, bro, that like I'm hoping that's not. It looked like what I was going through.
Mm.
We'll see because whatchamacallit just said he was born with a heart murmur.
Oh
Oh, that's
shit!
not good.
That ain't
That's
good.
not good.
Oh, was he?
That's what
Ooh.
93 Octane says. He says, oh wait, he said maybe he was born with a heart murmur.
Oh, well, you should have.
But if he was born with a heart murmur, he wouldn't be able to play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I
The
don't think that
physicals would have revealed that.
yeah, the physicians wouldn't have let him go through.
If his pulse is okay, like if he has a pulse, I don't really know. I don't get the sense. But once again, I'm not a doctor.
When
I
you
don't
got
get
a
the
heart,
sense.
when you got a heart murmur, and the doctor listens to your heart and your chest, they can hear the swish.
Yes.
I don't know. I hope he'd be all right, but I kind of get the sense it could be a collapsed lung as a result of the impact. It could be because if he got hit specifically in the chest, it could be that, and then his lung just deflated. At which point he wouldn't be able to breathe, and he'd go right down. He'd go right down. The danger is that if enough oxygen don't get to the brain, he'll be in some shit. But hopefully he'll be all right, man. That's all I can say. Hopefully he'll be all right. If they got him on a ventilator and it's doing the breathing for him, could be that he has a collapsed lung.
Yeah, man, that's not good, man. Because the way he got hit hard as fuck, and he gets dropped.
Hey, Jules. So what's up with Loma wanting to postpone the fight with Haney until May?
Well, I read April, but
where did you read that?
I think it's games. Honestly, I just think it's gamesmanship. Like, nah, let the motherfuckers struggle to make the weight. Fuck it.
On boxing scene.
Who wants to? Did they give a reason?
No, he just said he wanted to postpone it until May.
I'm not going to chime in on that until I read it because I saw something about late April, but we'll see.
I think.
But doesn't late April also seem a bit like far away? Like, why not March?
Yeah, why not March?
I think.
Well, the thing is that Devin wanted to do it. Devin wanted
before Ramadan.
Before Ramadan, which it's not going to happen because then when's the fight date? What, early March?
I think that
Oh yeah, no, they said it's because of March Madness. That's what Bob said.
Ramadan actually ends on April 27th. I think the article said so, and that's why Loma wanted to do it after that.
I saw some saying Bob doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to compete with March
That's the same
Madness.
thing I read, that he doesn't want the clash with March Madness on ESPN. That's the same thing I read.
And then that's that antiquated promoting. Like, nobody even watches March Madness like that anymore. Like, bro, it's boxing.
That's
like,
true.
you're gonna get a million on ESPN, bro. Like,
college basketball is still a ratings getter around that time, man. This is boxing.
No, I understand that, but Devin Haney versus Vasyl Lomachenko is a big enough fight where
They're
it's
not
still
even
gonna
on
do
the
over a
same
million.
slots. I'm with Drew on this. Look, Mark,
Yeah,
they're
on
not
free
even.
TV.
They're not on the same slots. Fucking, ESPN to do a show. They'll have a motherfucking fight. Motherfuckers would just be walking to the ring at 12 a.m. How do those things?
Exactly. Plus, it's gonna be free on a Saturday night. People are gonna watch.
Yeah,
exactly. Like Jules, like, come on, those are two big names. That's a big anticipated fight, undisputed. It's gonna do over 1 million views.
Yeah, like I don't think that March. Like, I know what he said because that's what I read, but I'm like, why would Haney versus Lomachenko be an issue during March Madness? They're two completely different audiences.
Yeah, so they're playing games then.
And that makes no sense because the first March Madness round is just crazy. There's games all during the day, during the week. That'd be the perfect week to do it. That's not like it's the Final Four, the Sweet 16.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. But I did read that was Bob's hang up.
Think about it like this: if they can have a Terence Crawford versus David Avanesian right close to the World Cup final, they can definitely have this fight in March.
Okay, here, let me read you guys the article real quick. Ramadan, which will last from March 22nd to April 21st, will be the main obstacle for the duel between Vasyl Lomachenko and undisputed lightweight champion Devin Haney. And it looks like boxing fans will have to wait a bit for this fight. It says, it seems clear that Lomachenko and Haney will face each other in their next fight. Bob Arum, a promoter who works with both athletes, says he can easily work out the details, although the Ukrainian reportedly wants to delay the date of this meeting. It's no secret that Haney has serious problems in order to keep within the limit of 61.2 kilograms, and he is seriously considering moving to the super lightweight category. And this is one of the main reasons why he wanted to fight before Ramadan. Lomachenko plans to demand a fight in May, which will make the task a little more difficult for the American. Haney and Lomachenko won their last fights in October, defeating George Kambosos and Jermaine Ortiz, respectively. So there's the article. That's what it says.
But remember this: after Lomachenko struggled against a bigger person than Jermaine Ortiz, he said, "Is this a lightweight or a heavyweight?" You saw the trepidation in Lomachenko. So ultimately, it's this
trepidation.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ, bro.
Yeah, I'm using that.
Trepidation, metastasize. Is this a fucking thesaurus episode?
Will you doctor?
Yeah, Country. I got a question. Country. I got a question. Hold on. I got a question. As an American, what the hell is a kilogram?
Trepidation.
What the hell is a kilogram?
Kilogram is like 2.5
He turned into Eubank Senior.
Measure of weight.
It's like
You've been
2.5
hanging out
pounds.
with you've been hanging out with
I know
Eubank Senior.
pounds, but what the hell
All
is
these big
kilogram?
ass words.
It's
Nah,
probably more metric.
I've been saying. I said what I said because let's keep it a buck. He did say that after the Jermaine Ortiz fight, and also it makes sense.
Well, pardon your usage of the word trepidation, but I'm not going to capitulate with your worldview of what's holding up this fight.
Can I just? I mean, you using trepidation? That's an unsubstantiated claim.
Chris went out.
I am not going to give in to your presuppositions about Vasyl Lomachenko on the premise of your postulations.
My presuppositions are backed up by this. This man enunciated and articulated to the world that this guy was kind of big.
That is all based on your interpretation of the dichotomy involving the respective athletes.
I don't know, man. It sounds like a
Just because here's what it is. What it is you can't derive. You can't surmise and derive that because Lomachenko faced a taller, stronger guy, that Haney is at anywhere near the level of physicality of the specimen that is Jermaine Ortiz.
And those are your annotations. Your annotations are exclusive to your interpretation, which is subjective.
I saw the man's body language, and I'm objectively assessing the situation.
You saw the body language of a man that was just in a 12-round fist fight.
I understand that, but like he never had this body language prior to that 12-round fist fight when he was fighting bigger guys. And hey, he fought Linares, who was a bigger guy, dropped him too. He fought.
Maybe Loma's consternation is just him saying, "Oh, Devin's fat and out of shape."
Yeah, like, it's not like just using a thesaurus.
Well, you know, I had to prove that I can use words that consist of more than two syllables as well. Since we're going to throw out words like trepidation.
Okay, all I know is that was a.
Yo, you felt the type of way, Juice?
I did.
Hey, to the guy who asked me what a kilogram was, it's equal to 2.2 long number American pounds.
Long number American pounds is fucking.
And I'm gonna end this.
I feel like this talk about.
I'm gonna end this word salad. I'm gonna end this word salad with that word, and using trepidation was cockamamie. All right.
Yeah.
Cockamamie, stop it.
I feel like this talk about Loma being scared is nothing but
wait a minute. Chris just went and got educated on us degenerates. That's all.
I was always educated. I'm not a degenerate.
I know, bro.
I'm not a vagabond.
This is chicanery, Christopher. This is chicanery.
We will not stand for these shenanigans. We are all boxing degenerates on this channel, damn it.
Chris, I expect this kind of chicanery from Frank Warren saying pay-per-view numbers a month and a half later.
That is hyperbole. That is hyperbole For those that don't know, it's not hyperbole. It's actually hyperbole. Okay,
Yes,
Chris?
Yeah,
Chris
that's hyperbole. I know.
Jules, what do you make of Frank just saying that, trying to slip that under the rug?
He was talking some bullshit. Fuck
No, I'm gonna be real with you, bro. I'm gonna be real with you because look, if I just look at the raw numbers, which I did, right? I looked at the raw numbers and all the raw numbers that are out there, and even if I give Frank the benefit of the doubt and say it did 500,000 to just north of 500,000, if you gave Fury, which is what y'all was saying, y'all said y'all gave Fury 24 to 25 M's, right? Then you gave Chisora another 4 M's, right? That's 28 to 29 M's in guaranteed purses. 500,000 at a $32 price point comes out to about roughly $16 million. And I'm going to tack on another 8 to 9 mil at the gate, and that still don't cover them purses. And then tack on whatever the cable and satellite company takes, because we know that they take a percentage of whatever comes in. And any which way I do them numbers, that shit flopped.
And that don't even count with taking. You got to factor in BT Sports Cut too, not just Discover,
That's what I'm talking about. Whatever they take, because they're gonna take something. They're a TV network. They're not just putting on shit to be putting on shit. They take a percentage of whatever comes in. You see what I mean? So I'm like, no matter how I do these numbers, right? What I know is just that raw figure of 28 to 29 mil, right? You would need to sell close to 1 million pay-per-view buys to cover that. You would need to sell close to 1 million pay-per-view buys at it's 32 US, 26 in pounds, because you got to apply the conversion rate. And like I said, in order for you to cover that, you got to sell damn near 1 million pay-per-view buys. So it's either you didn't sell, it's either you flopped or they didn't make that much. But it can't be both. Ain't no way you gave Fury 24 up front and Chisora 4 up front, and you sold that, then you flopped. You had to.
Mind you, look at the gate. Did they fill out the stadium? No. So that's
no, they did, but it's different over there, bro, because you could, with that amount of crowd, that's worth roughly 8 to 9 mil at the gate. That size crowd over there in the UK, a stadium fight, that's roughly 8 to 9 mil at the gate.
I feel you, but like, look at how I know this is completely different. Fight Century is not Anthony Joshua.
Well, it's Chisora, bro. Like, who the fuck wanted to pay pay-per-view to see that? Who?
Yeah, so you and I are on the same page. At the end of the day, we're not just gonna watch a recycled fight that we already saw the outcome like 7 years prior. You feel me? We saw the outcome of that fight 7 years prior, and you just rehashed it. So you mean to tell me that fight that was a one-sided beating from round 1 to round 10 made over 500K at the box office?
Yeah, I don't buy that, because see, look, like for example, if you look at the figures that were put out there for Amir Khan and Kell Brook, which sold roughly the same amount of pay-per-views, and I can believe that because that was a fight that a lot of the Brits were waiting for many years, and it sold around 400 to 500,000 K, around there, right? That neighborhood.
A lot of people wanted to see that.
But the guaranteed purses was not no crazy ass numbers like 24 mil, 4 mil. Bro, that's damn near $30 million in guaranteed purses, and that's the numbers that they were putting out there. You feel me? That's the numbers they were putting out there. Whereas with Amir Khan and Kell Brook, the numbers were a lot more modest. So when you do the numbers, you see, yeah, I see where you made money. I see where you could have made money with this. If you sold 400,000 or 500,000 pay-per-view buys, I can see where you would have made money with this. But ain't no way you're going to tell me that he got 24 and he got 4 and y'all sold $500,000 and somebody ain't lose no money. It's the same shit that happened with the Wilder versus Fury shit. I said it before, the second fight. I'm like, look, if you gave Wilder, which is the number that was out there, between 25 and 30, and you gave Fury the same, that's roughly 50 to 60 in guaranteed purses, right? Based on what the number that's out there, 800,000 pay-per-view sold, there's no way you made money. A couple of weeks after that, who comes out and says that the pay-per-view flopped? Bruce Trampler. He said it was due to piracy, that people stole it. But that's what either way, that's what I've been saying. Ain't no way you made money off of that. There's no way.
What was the guarantees?
The guarantees to Wilder and Fury. The guarantees to Wilder and Fury for the second fight were anywhere in between 25 to 30 for each guy, 25 mil to 30 mil for each guy, right? When you put that together, that's either 50 mil or 60 mil. Now, any way you do that, 50 or 60 or whatever, based on 800,000 pay-per-view buys, you couldn't have broke even. You lost money. You had to. Coincidentally, Bruce Trampler, right after that, he came out and said, yeah, that pay-per-view lost money. In spite of a $19 million gate, it lost money. He said it was due to piracy, though. But you know what? If the guarantees wouldn't have been that big and the operational costs would have been lower, right? You overshot it. If you would have spent a little bit less, you could have made money because it did sell well. 800,000 buys was good at that time. That's not bad, but you overshot it with the guarantees and the operational costs. So you ended up losing money for doing the fight.
Well, it goes back to the macro point, Jules, that you've been asserting to Alexis that Fury and Warwick Radio, Fury ain't this fucking draw that they say he is.
No, he not. And I've been saying that like he's not like, it's not that he can't draw, it's that he can't just fight anyone, you know? And what he wants for a fight is up there, like it's up there high. Right. So just to get him
he has
out
drawing
there,
power. He has drawing power, but it's a bit overstated.
Just to get him out there, it costs so much money that, look, if the guarantee was something more modest, like say 8 or 10, you can put him out there and get money and make money. But the guarantee that he want was double that. You know what I mean? Double that. You know, you basically want a quarter of 100 mil. You want 25 every time you get out there. It costs a lot of money to get you out there. And then you look at Derek. Derek don't fight for peanuts. 12 losses in all. He don't fight for peanuts. He get money. So you gonna need M's to get him in the ring. And it's like, yo, you overshooting it. You know what I mean? You don't want to rely on the upside of a pay-per-view, obviously, because you don't know if there's going to be one. So what you end up doing consistently is overshooting it with Fury because he costs so much fucking money to get out there. But that's the way it is.
These promoters have to really keep it a buck with these fighters. Like, yo, if you're not a superstar like that, your numbers dictate that, and let's keep it a buck. If you're not willing to take at most 15 million, you can go kick rocks, and I can terminate you.
It's like I've been saying. It's like I've been saying. You want $20 million. I need to see you make 25 million.
Yeah, because the way that things are now, and the way the structure is now, which Steve Kim often talked about, is you got guys, they got contract minimums because the networks and the promoters don't want those fighters floating somewhere else to be content for someone else. So they give them these huge contract minimums that have to be honored every time the fighter fights. But what ends up happening is they end up losing money as a result of that, trying to honor the minimum for every single show that isn't worth the same dollar amount every single time. Like the value for Fury versus Usyk is not the same value for every Fury fight. If we do Fury versus Caballel, or we do Fury versus Joe Blow, stumble bum guy, or ham and egg guy, well, the value goes down, but his contract minimum stays the same, even though the value of the show goes down. And that's the problem that the sport is facing now.
Whose fault is that, though? It's not the fighter.
And then to speak of that fight, Jules, do you think that the AJ Usyk rematch was more valuable than Fury Usyk? I think so.
Yeah. Maybe. Because, look, AJ Usyk, the numbers that were out there were crazy numbers, bro. They were just insane numbers. And I can believe those numbers because the people out there in Saudi and the UAE and Dubai, those places, they got money to play. They got ridiculous money out there, bro. The fact that they bought the rights off of Eddie, yeah, I can believe they did all that crazy-ass money because they bought the shit from him. Like, man, here, take this money and we bought the flip
Chris,
it.
And the only reason
to your point about Usyk,
more because go ahead.
I was gonna say he did $1 million or close to it with Chisora in the UK, and then immediately after that, Chisora did less than 200,000 with Joseph Parker. So I don't believe Warren's numbers. I think what Eddie said is probably true. They probably did like 300,000.
And then think about when it was like I gave Warren the benefit of the doubt, and I went with his number to prove a point. There are two numbers out there, yours and Eddie's. Now, in the spirit of objectivity, I'm not going to go with Eddie's number because he's your competitor. I'm going to go with your number. And even if I do, there is no way you broke even. There's no way. Not based on these figures. 24 for him, 4.5 for him, 500,000 pay-per-view buys are just north of that, because you would need to sell close to 1 million to break even based on those numbers. And that's just to break even. To make money, you would need to sell more than that to make money. Because remember, whatever comes in, a portion of it is going to the network.
It goes to the broadcasters, yeah.
Ain't nobody just doing shows for the sake of doing shows. They want to get in on the action. They try and make some money. All right, bang. So for you to cover it, for you to not even cover it, generate it, how much would you have to sell to generate these dollars? Who the fuck is that keep coming and going? Panel is full, fellas. I'm sorry. It's already like 7 people up here.
I can go. It's cool.
No, we need your knowledge. We need your knowledge.
I got work tomorrow, so I'm gonna hit y'all later. Peace, brother.
Now, I'm saying that when I did the numbers, like, what would it take for them to start making money based on these figures? And I'm like, bro, you would have to sell at least 1 million to over 1 million pay-per-view buys before you start making money at a price point of 26 pounds, which is $32 American. You would need to sell well over 1 million before you start making money. Now, it's either Fury didn't really get 26. That's the only way you could start to make it make sense that, well, if Fury didn't get 26, if he got like 10, then it would make sense. But that's not the number that's out there. The number that's out there, no matter where I look, is 24 to 25 million.
Oh, Alexis in the chat.
You think Daniel Kinahan's going to let Fury not take 26?
Say it again?
You think Daniel's even going to let them try to undercut Fury?
I mean, what is Fury's contract minimum, Like,
and there's a reason that they're not pushing to try to get him back over here, Jules. Like, I guess Bob Arum must not be on the hook for the purses when it's in UK, right?
Let me put it this way. I'm going to put it this way. Because Alexis is doing the thing where he just goes with Top Rank just because it's Top Rank. That's basically what he's doing. But you're negating the fact that Bruce Trampler himself said they lost money on Fury versus Wilder 2. And Fury versus Wilder 3 is reported to have sold 200,000 buys less than the second fight did. The first fight was reported to have done around 800,000. That was the second fight. The third fight did less than that at 600,000. That's the number for that fight. But the guarantees didn't seem to change. So if those numbers check out, which is what I've maintained, that if these are the figures, based on these figures, you lost money again on the third fight. Now, you might have made money. You might have made money with the Dillian White fight, but I don't know, because that fight was $41 million. The purse bid for that fight was $41 million. You have to sell a lot of pay-per-views to cover a pot that size. I don't know that they did.
Yeah.
Do you think Frank is I'm sorry.
No, because I just wanted to respond to what Chris was saying, that it's not the fighter's fault, but like it kind of is. And it's also the promoter's fault that you're using promotional malfeasance to basically call out a fighter to promote a fight that nobody wants to watch.
Malfeasance? You too watch
I do have a thesaurus in my hand too. But it's like there's no point in trying to do that and then trying to hype him up as, oh, he's a big draw. He's better than this guy. No, it's just not gonna work.
Now let me explain this to Alexis. For starters, you got a thing with DAZN, right? And what you don't understand about DAZN is they're not set up like your conventional cable and satellite company. DAZN is basically their own distributor. So the way that could break down, I'm just hypothesizing, because they're their own distributor of their own content, they see more of their own money. Kind of like ESPN Plus, which we talked about, that Crawford versus Porter was on ESPN Plus, and ESPN Plus themselves distributed the pay-per-view. However, that does not apply to Fury's fights, because who's the main distributor for the pay-per-view? BT Sport. Mm-hmm. That's who distributed that. BT Sport.
And go to the Fury Wilder fights. They depended more on linear pay-per-view
because those weren't exclusive ESPN Plus or Showtime app pay-per-views. So we could kill that nonsense right there.
Exactly what separates Wilder and Fury, because I just mentioned a Fury pay-per-view. If we apply that to Fury and Wilder, you do have to remember there were a lot of fingers in that pie. All right, ESPN was in that pie, Showtime was in that pie, Top Rank was in that pie, PBC was in that pie, Queensbury was in that pie. It's a lot of fucking people involved, bro. So don't get mad at me when I bring up what Bruce Trampler said, because he said it. It lost money.
And then like I said with the Usyk AJ fight, that fight was just worth more because Fury doesn't bring in those sponsors that AJ does every fight for an extra $30-40 million.
Range Rover. He don't have no Hugo Boss, no Range Rover sponsor. He don't bring that. I know you don't like it, Alexis, but the kid from Watford is worth a lot of fucking money, and you got to deal with that. Fury is not. You know why? Because Fury is a social pariah. When Sky grilled him in front of everyone, and Sky Sports in the UK is tantamount to Fox. It's a big network, man. It's a big network. And they asking him in front of all these, yo, what you know about Daniel Kinahan? It's pictures with you chilling with him and talking to him and all that and all that and all that and all that.
Arm around him.
You know what I mean? When they do that to you, people seeing that. People see, and it's people. This is something I think Alexis don't understand, right? The way they look at drug dealers over there is not the way that drug dealers are seen over here. I had a whole argument with a guy because he was mad that I was saying, yo, they still ain't catch Daniel yet, because we'd been arguing for months about this. And I told him that even though they levied U.S. sanctions against Daniel Kinahan, it won't stop his operation because most of the business that he does is not in America anyway. So they're not really doing a whole lot to him. He can still conduct business elsewhere because primarily he's said to operate out of Europe. Well, he's based out of Dubai, but he operates in Europe. And I'm like, a U.S. sanction really doesn't stop a whole lot for him. And months later, all these months, and he was like, no, they're going to get him. He's going to get arrested. I'm like, all right, you'll see. I told him, like, you'll see.
I guarantee you Daniel Kinahan doesn't even have an FBI team dedicated to him.
Bro, that's what I was about to say, Drew. Like, is he on the FBI most wanted list?
And look, even if he is, this is the thing. I told the guy months ago when the news first broke about the sanctions that I said, look, unless they're going to extradite him, this doesn't go nowhere. When they extradite him, now you're cooking with rice. But if they're not going to extradite him from Dubai back over to Ireland to answer for his crimes, then we're not talking about anything. And so far, it's 2023. I know you're listening. I can feel you listening. So far, he still hasn't been extradited, has he? And I told you, they're not going to do anything. U.S. sanctions? I'm sorry. That means, oh my God, he can't operate in America. Well, guess what? He wasn't operating in America anyway.
Yeah, I don't think the UAE even has an extradition treaty with the United States. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but that's what I think. Also, I have a question. Do you think Frank Warren and them are lying about how much Fury's making to try to have more leverage for a potential AJ fight?
Absolutely, but not just because of that, but because of the people that he aspires to have them invest in the show. It's all about keeping up appearances. You don't want people to know that we put Fury on pay-per-view 3 times and he flopped 3 times. You don't want people to know that. You don't want investors to know that, because then they're gonna be like, well, wait a minute now. We don't want to invest.
Real quick. Being that you said that, okay, certain fighters, because they're represented by Kinahan, couldn't get in. Is Sonny Edwards an MTK guy?
He was, but then he's a Probellum guy now.
Yeah, MTK is defunct, Virtuoso. It doesn't exist
anymore. I know, but sorry, I meant to say Probellum. Sorry.
He's a Probellum guy.
He's a Probellum fighter. He is.
Yes, but is he permitted to fight in the country, in the U.S.?
I don't know. I don't think he's ever tried to fight here.
Not be.
I do want to see him fight. Back.
I spoke to Sonny yesterday on the Spaces. I feel like I'm scared to ask him that. Can you come to America? Because there's this rumor.
I wish you did.
You ask him. Yeah, I'll ask him, Virtuoso.
Well, it's a rumor of YTBC, bro. You ask him.
You
It's been
fucking
rumored that
ask him,
Probellum
Virtuoso.
is
You the one
Daniel
that want to
Kinahan's
know.
fighter.
Hey, neither one of you got to worry. Send him to me. I'll ask him. No problem.
You fucking ask him, country. I'm not.
I promise I will.
Because I'm not gonna fuck that shit. Like that's some shit. Look, Savannah Marshall.
Look, just tell him to bring his lawyer.
Look, Savannah Marshall, for example. There, a lot of people noticed that she wasn't in attendance for Taylor versus Serrano last April. They thought she would be there, but she was not allowed to enter into the country. She wasn't. Tommy Fury was not allowed to enter into the country. What's the common denominator between Tommy Fury, Savannah Marshall, and Tyson Fury?
Daniel Kinahan.
MTK? Well, not necessarily Daniel, but MTK.
Which
also
Daniel Kinahan.
Wasn't it reported that
Yeah, but
Probellum
Sonny
might have had links
signed with Probellum before MTK even fell.
But I know that, Rachel, but you know what the problem is? That this is what the problem is. A lot of people notice because they're trying to make a tenuous association between Probellum, MTK,
and MTK. Yep.
And they're trying to make that. They haven't established that connection. For those that don't know, they haven't actually established that connection. But what's going on is there's a list of 600 individuals in boxing that are banned from entering into the United States. And the feeling is, it's not confirmed because we've never actually seen the list, right? But the feeling is that the 600 individuals on that list are all MTK fighters. And who was an MTK fighter before they went out of business? Savannah Marshall, Chantel Cameron, Tommy Fury, a lot of other people. These are the same people, many of them, who ended up going to Probellum. So that's where they try to make that connection that you know what I mean? It's not established though. It isn't. There are no US sanctions levied against Probellum. They're not. But they are levied against, Daniel Kinahan.
Oh, really? Okay, really quick question because I don't remember this timeline and I'm doing something. Chantel Cameron, she fought here in Vegas during COVID, I believe. Was that before or after the Kinahan announcement?
Before.
Okay.
Before. And that's why I'm watching it to see. I watched the situation to see who's getting to come into America to fight. Who and there was supposed to be an Edwards versus Martinez fight, but it didn't materialize. So we never got to get the answer to the question to see where would they do the fight. Would they do the fight in America? Would they do the fight in the UK? Because depending on where they do it, that might give us an answer. We could make certain inferences that, well, if they have Julio fly out to the UK, it could be because Sonny can't come here. You see what I mean? But it's a guessing game. And what we know is that Tyson Fury was turned away from coming to America. His brother was turned away from coming to America. Savannah Marshall was turned away from coming to America. I'm going to assume that the same applies to Josh Taylor. I'm going to assume that what saves him is that, well, your next fight is in the UK anyway with Jack Catterall, so it's really not an issue for you. But beyond that fight, if you stay in the UK, it's like, yeah, maybe you can't come into the country, which is why you're over there, because he's a top-ranked fighter too. But when's the last time he fought in America? The Ramirez fight over a year ago. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know. The other thing is, I don't know what the length of that ban is because this has been going on for months. I don't know what they have to do to get that ban lifted. And we don't know who in the 600, because it could be a lot of people. And I'm using my imagination. But it could be a lot of people that are on that list.
They got to jump through a bunch of hoops they don't want to do,
Hey, man, you better not be on that list, country. I'm just telling you, better not be on that list. And with that, it's all tenuous because, like I said, the connection really hasn't. The only connection you can make is that many fighters that used to be MTK Global fighters crossed over to Probellum, like Dina Thorsland. Well, not really Dina, but other fighters like Chantel Cameron. And that's the connection that they're making. Though ultimately, we don't know because there aren't any U.S. sanctions levied against Probellum. There aren't. And MTK Global going under, well, that's what I would have did. I'm going to shut this company down before you get to find out what we're doing. I'm going to shut the whole thing down. I'm going to start up somewhere else. I'm going to rebrand and start fresh. I literally said that. Yeah, like I literally said that if I'm Daniel, What I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down one operation and start up another one, because you can't just come over here asking questions. You have no probable cause to come over here asking questions about my brand new company that I just started yesterday. You have probable cause to ask MTK questions, not us. We're new, and that's what I would have did. And it's just crazy out here, man. It's wild out here. And yeah,
in other words, it's the old shell game,
I mean, but it's the best way to do it, because you have to hide the money. That's the main thing.
You gotta play 3-card Monty with the drug money.
Yep.
Yeah, you gotta hide the money, basically. And when you have that much money, man, you could start up 2 companies tomorrow. But you have that much money, look, man. This is Julius Enterprises, bro. We sell T-shirts. You sell $3 billion. Yes, $3 billion, and you started yesterday. Absolutely. All right, popular demand. That's why we started up. You know what I mean? And also, to somebody raised the point, I think it was Julio, that America and the UAE, those places over there, they don't have an extradition treaty. You need their cooperation to get him out of there. And unless you have it, we ain't talking about shit.
I think this thing is blowing over.
I think to me it did. This Tom and Jerry thing that's been going on, and I told the guy, I tried to tell him, because I'm just looking at it objectively, that look, if they let him slip away in Ireland, I'm sorry, he's gone. I'm sorry. Your best bet to nail him to the wall was in Ireland.
If old Danny Boy gets knocked, bro, well, who's gonna be the next plug for Tyson Fury?
I don't know, but I know that their best bet to nail him to the wall was in Ireland. And if he's over there, in Dubai, well, you can fucking forget it, bro. You can fucking forget it.
Where'd he go? Dubai, baby.
He's at Dubai, baby. You know what I'm saying? I tried to tell a dude, and because I told him that, he literally got mad at me. And this goes back to what I was trying to tell Alexis, that we're in American culture, and some subcultures, they may glorify drug dealing, narcos, y cosas así, where they may glorify that. What I took away from the conversations that I've had with people that are from Ireland is they don't glorify it. They were very mad at me for saying that I think he's going to get away. They thought that I was, they tried to make it seem like I'm not supporting him. I'm just telling you I think he's going to get away. I'm sorry. Unless we're talking about extradition, we're not talking about anything.
Man, all I gotta say is it doesn't matter what level it is. You don't want to mess with them 3-card money guys, because they will jack you up.
Yeah, like all I was telling them is that U.S. sanctions for a cartel that primarily operates in Europe means both fucking deadly.
Yeah, and I get it for them, because apparently he has been tearing shit up. There's that infamous video of his gang shooting up a fucking weigh-in. They've been doing some insane type of shit out there.
Yeah, I watched the whole documentary about him, right? And what stands out is they were never able to prosecute him for any of the things he was accused of, which, at least at that time, creates a unique problem. You can't convict someone based on hearsay. This ain't the fucking Dark Ages. You need to stick them to the wall for something. And by the time, I remember when I was watching it, that by the time they were able to compile something substantial, he had moved away. He relocated to Dubai. And I was talking to this guy, this Irish guy on Twitter, and I was like, that's when they lost him, bro. He's going to be very hard to get now that he's not there. And the guy was so fucking mad at me for saying it, but I'm like, all I'm telling you is it's going to be hard to get him out of there. I'm sorry. But unless they're going to extradite him.
Why should he be mad at you, though, for? I mean, you're just telling the truth. I mean, geez.
Apparently, bro, when you tell the truth these days, motherfuckers literally get mad at you over
Yeah, they do, boy. Let me tell you.
All I was telling the dude was like, yo, look, dog, there's no extradition treaties between the United States and and he was talking about the court date. He was trying to make it seem that because the United States gave him a court date to appear in court. I think it's in March of this year, I think. And he's like, no, they're going to get him. You will see. And I'm like, bro, you think Daniel Kinahan is going to board a plane and come to America to make a court to appear in court? Like, what are you, 5-year-old? How fucking naive are you, bro?
Oh, that's funny, man.
Yeah, bro. That's like look, that's like if I get a parking ticket in New York and I'm based out of Costa Rica. Bro, you think I'm gonna fucking get on a like what?
Forces are after you.
Shit didn't make he was really mad at me, like, and I just kept repeating this. I wasn't trying to troll him, but he was really upset, and he said
no, dude,
what he said was that he knew people that were affected by that's basically what he said, and I gathered that from his reaction because he was very upset. But I'm not poking fun at what's happening. I'm just telling you that based on what I see, this guy's he's chilling over there, man. He's chill. It's hard to touch him over there. It's very hard.
Hey, Jules, these people get set in their opinions, man. Like one time, I mean, it's a little off subject, but I had this dude who got pissed off at me because I told him a wild honey badger would beat a pit bull, and he like got mad at me about it. It was like almost talking shit to me because I didn't agree with him that the pit bull would win, and I'm like, dude, it's a wild honey badger. Them things don't play.
Listen, bro. I this happened on Facebook. This was a while ago. The grizzly bear versus the silverback gorilla, a very popular conversation.
Right.
And I stated many times, if those two animals fought, I would go with the grizzly bear because he weighs more and he has talons. Grizzly bears are apex predators.
Yeah, they're more vicious too.
They're assholes. They're the assholes of the animal kingdom. Whereas gorillas are very much peaceful animals. They're practically herbivores.
Yeah, they'll fight to defend themselves and stuff, and they're like immensely strong, but they don't go out and like kill shit like grizzly bears do. You know?
Yeah. They're hunters. Like they'll literally just pin you down and start eating you alive. Like they won't kill you like a lion or a tiger.
Did you guys see that video of those two idiot morons who went out around the bears and they were filming it and they were like they had no weapons, no bear spray, no nothing. They both ended up getting killed and eaten alive on camera.
Well, let me drive the point home. You know, I told the guy that the grizzly bear is actually an apex predator. The gorilla is not. You know, the gorilla is not an apex predator. And he's not really an asshole either. Gorillas are social animals. They live in communities. They don't literally run around tearing shit up the way a bear would. That's what bears do. They run around tearing shit up. One swipe of those talons and they'll open you up real fast. They'll open up a gorilla. And you know, the guy got really fucking mad, and I'm like, why is this guy so mad about this shit? Like
the only thing that's worse is the damn polar bear, dude. They're even worse.
Yeah, but they're about to go extinct, bro.
Yeah, but them suckers are worse than grizzlies. And you know what? They're actually found a couple hybrids of grizzlies and polar bears.
I seen them shit. I saw pictures of them. I read about them.
I saw a video. I was like, oh my God. Like the two worst apex predator bears you can think of, and they bred.
Yeah, it's like you know, because you know what the argument he made was, well, the gorilla's smart. And I'm like, well, what the fuck you think the gorilla's going to do? Judo chop him? Right? This is not a fucking movie, bro. Watch too many movies.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, like what the fuck do you think it's gonna be like it's gonna be like Kong versus Godzilla? This is not a movie, bro, right? Fucking bear is not a joke, bro. You see a bear, if you ain't got a gun, I don't know, bro.
You know what? Number one, they'll outrun you. Number two, if you try to go up a tree, they can climb trees, so they'll get your ass.
They'll fucking get you. Like you don't want to have an encounter with a fucking bear, bro. They're the fucking worst, all right?
But you know the retarded thing is these people go out in the woods with no weapons and then wonder why they get fucked up or attacked.
Because they think it's a fucking movie, bro. Like they really think shit is a movie.
Yeah,
and they can swim fast. They're like the Terrence Crawford of the fucking wild. They could do everything.
Dude, yeah, like I saw this video of this lady, and she runs into this wild brown bear, right? And the brown bear is like messing with her canoe. She has no bear spray, no weapon, but she's filming it, and she's yelling at the bear and chastising it like it's a child.
Well, I'll say this: you'd sooner want to run into a brown bear before you run into a grizzly.
Yeah.
Not to say that, because running into a bear, period, is bad. But better a brown bear than a grizzly. Better a brown bear.
Right, but I mean, she's chastising a wild animal, or maybe she did have spray, but she didn't use it. And she goes, "If you don't leave my canoe alone, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to spray you in the face." And I was like, oh my God, this woman
She's
is
fucking
retarded.
Karen the bear. She went full Karen on the bear.
I made the mistake of making that comment on Facebook, and about 5 people jumped on me for saying that word, man. I was like, oh my God, here we go. And it's just like, but the lady was so dumb. It's like, okay, you're not spraying the bear, but you're filming it and you're chastising a wild bear like it can understand you. Lady, you're about to get killed.
Like,
what are you
bro.
doing?
And to go back to the guy, it was kind of like that. They're like, bro, you're set in what you want, and you're mad that I'm telling you that months from now he'll still be in Dubai and nothing will happen, because that's what started it. That everybody was talking about when the news broke that the U.S. sanctioned him, and I made a comment that, well, that's nice, but he doesn't operate out of America, so nothing's going to happen. He doesn't come here. He doesn't. His operation is reported to be mostly out of Europe and Spain. So unless it's something involving those places, nothing is going to come from this. He's still going to be in Dubai this time next year. And the guy starts carrying on about the court date.
Hey,
I'm like, bro, do you honestly believe that Daniel's going to get on? Well, I got a court date in America, so I got to go. Like, really, bro? Really, bro?
Hey, do you know who Ken Block is? Because a couple of people have mentioned that this dude Ken Block died today in a snowmobile accident.
I don't know.
I have no idea who Ken Block is, but rest in peace, man.
Yeah, rest in peace, bro. Anyway, I'm going to close it out right now. Everybody, it's been fun. Mental health. Stay out of trouble. Stay away from Daniel. And, don't get sanctioned by the U.S.
Have a good night, everybody. Jules, have a good night. Thanks for having me on, brother.
All right.